Well, who finally joined the game? um, heck yeah. Do apologize for just a teensy bit late. It's okay. We're always fashionably late here, as we should be,
No,
as wizards.
we're not late. We're not late.
Yeah.
Everyone else is
See, it's as
on time.
Gandalf says, a wizard is never early or late. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
As another wizard said, "It's wizard's time, motherfuckers!"
Indeed. I don't know what you two are doing over here in the doorway, but knock it off. That goes on in your room.
Oh my god.
Wah. Did
Where's
you just throw? Yo.
Thank
where
you.
is Orion?
Anyways,
Oh, there is Orion. Where is? Oh my God! All right, yeah, sure. Where's? Oh, there he is.
Lizard.
I could lizard. Um, over the intercom, you just hear lizard.
lizard.
I'm on my
Lizard.
wrong microphone. Oh.
Yes.
Proposal, Trust. When the funding number hits 20 next time, then the ship cannot reply anything but Lizard.
I will keep that in mind.
No, don't do that to Saber. I'm just about to. I'm just about to do character building with him.
So, we are. So last night you had a little time talking with his hostess. Not too in depth. Basically, it was just I want to know more about you. And you never all this time you never asked how he was doing for shame.
I'm sorry. Did anything you said in the last 30 seconds English?
Yes.
Okay. I only understood that last sentence.
She was
Okay.
trying to guilt you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was saying, last night the night before this one, in game, you had basically the last time on Wizards, you had a little bit of a conversation with Saber. You finally asked a little bit about him. You finally asked how he was doing after these many years. After how many years have you been in the ship? Yeah.
I don't know. It depends how long. It depends since how long.
Yeah,
It
so
depends
at
how
least
long.
that long. You just never asked how he was doing. It's okay. As we're kind of groggily waking up, it's a bit early in the morning. And sorry, let me erase Solstice saying fuck you. We hear, or more importantly, Luna and Arethe, who are closest to that room. Solstice probably in their bed. Hear that there is a call coming in.
Oh shit! I'll get up and put my glasses. Like,
You have not heard it yet.
hello.
Get the fuck back to bed.
Well, it would be ringing in here, wouldn't it?
I will throw a lizard at you for fun.
Okay.
Solstice, wake the fuck up.
What? Huh? What? Huh? What?
There's a call.
Shit. Okay. I will grab the glasses, put them on. Yes, hello.
At the orb.
It's we've established before that the glasses can answer calls.
Oh, that's right. Shit, I don't remember my own fucking shit. I don't remember shit. Anyway, but yeah, you hear a very fancy voice. They're very. Hello, is this the the domicile of Luna. I wish to speak to Luna.
She is currently unavailable. May I take a message?
A message will not do. I need to speak with them urgently.
All right, just hang on for me, all right? I'm gonna put it on hold. Someone looking for Luna.
Oda! Wake the fuck up.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We've got 50 people to burn. I'm gonna lightly knock on the door. Luna?
She just hears like the cacophonous sound of just no 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 no.
Knock, knock,
Um.
Luna? Knock, knock, Luna? Knock, knock, Luna?
Oh yes. Sorry. Yes.
There's a
Awake.
call for you in the orb.
Oh.
The orb room.
That's strange. We
Yeah,
should go
someone
down there
very-
immediately then.
Yeah, we should. They're waiting for us. You have me. You stole me.
Should we pick up the others?
Oh, yeah, probably should, huh? Knock on
Yeah, Luna's gonna
Ryan's
just
door.
knock on Ryan's door. Right here.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. I'm playing a lot of Cyberpunk. There's someone important Luna talked to Luna, and we decided that everyone else is coming too. So
Okay.
wake the fuck up, samurais. Wait, Alice too.
You can finish seeking boost next to me.
I mean, worst case, they can
Hi.
stay in bed.
Yeah.
Hello.
Uh,
Tara has appeared from seemingly nowhere.
yeah, you just crawl the ceiling like a spider.
Basically.
Yeah. Um,
What's up? Stuff going on?
there's
Yeah.
a call. for
Pancakes?
Luna.
No, not yet.
Oh, it's not pancakes.
It's not
There's
pancake. Like her hands like on their knees beating the floor. It's not pancake.
There's someone who has more money than they should phoning us looking for Luna.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, we should probably get back to them. Maybe they can make us pancakes.
We should ask for
Maybe.
pancakes as payment. Are we independent contractors?
Miff, don't forget to select your color.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Vaz has put a bargain in chat if anyone's interested in taking that up.
Mm.
Which we can get to that after the after we go to the first call. Alice and Firefist, are you staying in bed or are you coming along?
No answer from Alice's door when Soul knocked.
You got it. Boop.
Fire still coming along.
One more time.
Still come along.
He'll come along.
Okay. I apologize. I seem to be having trouble hearing you today. I don't know if that's a skill issue on my part or
You're finally
Could be
vibrating.
Discord.
You're finally vibrating at frequencies too low for trust.
it's possible.
That sounds about right.
You see in the far distance the orbular room is lit up a bright yellow.
Oh, great! It's piss colored.
Why do they
Piss
have
filter,
piss?
piss filter, piss filter.
Filter. Oh,
Sure. It's fine. You know, Tara just jumps up, grabs like one of the railings, and just like fucking kicks Firefist in the chest down the stairs. Like Star Butterfly style. You see that it is a two large figures. You recognize these figures. They are the head of the Templar that you have
Uh-oh.
previously pissed off before.
Did they see our registration plate when we pissed them off before? Shit. Do they know who they're talking to?
We
Come
know
on.
who you are, but we're not here for you. We're here for Luna.
Oh, great. Yeah, she's right here.
It's time
by the way.
for. It's about time for the tournament, and it's time that she updated her attire to be more suitable of representation of our faction, as well as we would like to humbly inform her of her expectations. Her combat
Right.
prowess has been obviously good enough, as she has taken down our previous candidate, but we would need to ensure that her political standpoint is aligned. She's allowed to bring one guest, though most of you, I will confess, will not have much warm reception after you're stunned.
I'm trying really hard to not laugh.
You see them like kind of like they are not comfortable talking to the majority of the party.
I mean, you're missing out
Yeah.
on eating food on your floors. It could be all me.
Okay, we could at least pick up someone. At least Luna, if you would. Here, I see you there. Choose the most civilized of you. No combatants, though, and no combatants are allowed within our halls. No, and none who are participating in the tournament, other than yourself, of course.
Yeah, no, of course. Do you want us to drop her off for you?
No, thank you. Please do not take your airship in our airspace again, or we will shoot it down.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Um,
Interesting.
furthermore, we will send someone out there to get her, or you can have her escorted by one of yourselves. You seem very capable.
We'll send someone with her. Don't you worry. We'll send someone over with her.
Quite.
Good. Good. Glad we all have a good understanding.
Competition seems fierce this year. I see that a lot of your party is in. Seems a new faction has arrived, but I'm sure you know that. Anyway, we'll see Luna by the end of the day. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah. You just and well,
New
no combatants.
faction.
Yeah, new faction. Wreath. Do you have anything on that?
Do I?
No. You are not aware of a new faction.
I am not aware. Okay.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it is. Cool.
Well, do you want to go with her and so you can dig up?
I mean, our choices are Orion, me, or the goat. Who is still asleep, I guess. So
Yeah.
feels like it's me.
Plus, to be fair, I don't think I could stand being around them for that long, and I think if Alice was introduced to the most pious, powerful people near us right now, I'm pretty sure she'd snap.
She'd stab him. They would be dead. She would kill him.
As funny as that would be, I don't think that that's the best for us diplomatically at the moment.
No, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that's what would happen. Because I mean, I want to right now, so I'm definitely not going to go. Just say no combatants, but still, nonetheless.
Wonder how hard it'll be to like reshape their religion.
Probably not that hard. If you
Problems for later.
Well, Reef,
Oh shit!
I mean,
Are we doing RimWorld logic right now? Shit.
well, hang on. It can't be that hard. I mean, you can pretend to be anyone. You silence their leader, pretend to be them. Whatever you
Do
say
all
goes.
sorts
Right?
of shit.
Yeah, exactly. You
I
can
haven't
probably
tried
just nail it.
haven't tried starting a cult yet. It seems like a bad idea, but
Do you want to be a
maybe.
cult leader?
I mean,
As we're having this discussion, the orb begins to ring again.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Yeah.
And you hear the founder come on as the room flashes red. Tara!
Oh, what's up?
We're having a great day planned for festivities. We've taken out all of the scraps that we had in the freezer, and we're having a fantastic baking competition, as well as some games with guns. We know how your party likes guns. And to even sweeten the deal, there's prizes. You can bring one person with you. We're gonna outfit you, get you all set up, make sure you're ready to kill somebody, and we'll have a fantastic day.
Oh shit. Any limitations on who I can bring?
No combatants from other teams. We don't
Aw.
want to leak our well, one, we don't want the prizes getting to the hands of them, just for principle, and also we don't want to have secrets leaked. Even if they are your friends, we know what you're planning, but I still would prefer not.
That's fair.
I think Tara's gonna have a better day than we are.
I'm getting pie.
The fuck? I want pie.
Well, maybe you should have entered in as an independent.
Yeah, I am an independent.
You are an independent. That's what I'm saying. Shouldn't have.
Oh. Well, this conversation no longer concerns you. He hangs up.
Wow, rude. All right.
Buy me pie.
So much for the rest
They
of
were
that
rude-
call.
They were rude
So
first.
I guess before they figure out how to use phones, I think you might as well head over to the Kobold's Firefest.
Which,
Yeah.
go ahead, Firefist.
No, he's just agreeing that Reese makes the point.
In the background, you hear like a soft knocking. You've noticed that it's
That-
just progressively gotten louder.
Firefest, can you please go outside before they rip my ship apart?
Given the timing.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'll go.
as you like as we like kind of start to like one by one like just kind of mingling and go upstairs. So we just hear like progressively like more little fish just tapping at the side of the ship at different locations.
Firefist, please, like sprint up there. They might actually start ripping apart the paneling here soon.
It's just like tap 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 tap.
Firefist, please. Firefist, go, please.
Ah, yes, the tip taps of 1,000 tiny claws.
You hear like the pings and pongs of little claws tapping at the back of the engines.
I'll go fetch Alice. Everything good on your end, Vivi?
Yeah.
Want to come join us?
We're gonna be heading back up to the top, so we'll
Okay.
reconvene with them. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Got it. I just had to vent my brain. Ah. Whoops. No. Yeah, I'm gonna grab blah. Blah. Yeah. There you go.
Why is there spooky music playing?
I don't know. I guess it's part of the thing.
So, Tara, you're going to see Founder.
Yeah.
Luna, you're going to see Templar. Are you going to go with her?
Yes, I'm gonna go with Luna
Okay.
since. So the only question is who Tara and I assume Firefist is gonna bring someone with.
Well, Tara, do you want to see if Alice is up yet?
Yeah, I can go check on her. I guess I'll give it a thought to my +1 since I can't really take anyone who is participating. That'll be something to think on. And she goes over and knocks on Alice's door. Alice! Pancakes! Pancakes? You want pancakes?
Yeah.
Are you sick?
You just hear a bang and nothing after.
Ugh. Oh, this sounds like my kind of party. She's opening up. She's gonna try to open the door. Is it locked?
No.
All right, I'm peeking in. Who do I
She's
see?
faking it.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
As you go in, you see Alice with her head on her desk, and there's like pages all over the place and books and supplies strewn around. She's been like clearly been awake the entire night, like doing whatever, and she just fell asleep on her desk.
What the hell are you studying? What in the quantum wizardry? She's kind of like trying to make sense of the notes.
I'm trying to figure out void stuff. It doesn't matter. Pancakes, right?
I mean, it does matter. You're doing science
She's just like, "Without
Science?
me?"
without me. Yeah, exactly what I was gonna say.
Terra, the science lizard. Terra, the science lizard. Terra, Terra, Terra. Sorry.
Wait, we should, as we're over here, real quick, as Luna goes to begin making pancakes. We notice that there's she flips over some of the pots and etc. and find little crystal burgers, as well as a little Vasha that was hiding beneath them. It seems these are dubious creations of a certain familiar. You are welcome to partake within them should you wish to.
Reese takes one look at them, is like, nope.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good on death today. I've had
Yeah,
enough.
nah. No offense to Vash, but nah, not today.
Compliments to the chef. They do look tasty.
Yeah, they look very powerful. Yeah. Have a
Oh,
little powerful.
Orion?
Yeah, that was her.
No,
Luna-
Reese just remembered something.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
Here, he gives you back your tool.
Oh, that's going to be very handy. Thank you.
You're not questioning why he has it.
You're a thief. It's what you do.
All right, fair enough.
Our compassionate klepto.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna let her have that and go inside Alice's ship and poke shit.
Well, to be fair, we would get some information, assuming it doesn't shock the shit out of me.
I mean, you did end up getting the shit shocked out of you anyways.
That is true. I did not go in there expecting to be woken up, but it is nice to be lucid, even if I do feel like I haven't slept for 17 years. He's
Mhm.
like, Luna just like, okay, yeah, I'm not touching that. She like stacks up a little pyramid and just starts preparing pancakes. What are you little scientists up to? Back to your little, your scene.
Was there anything that Alice wanted to say on it, or is she wanting to deflect from it?
No, she's just gonna deflect from it. Like try to grab the mess and put it in a pile and start heading out.
Tara's going to look at her, put her hands together, and go, "All right then, keep your secrets," and follows out. Tara is gonna see the crystal burgers, and she's going to see Vasha nearby them, and seeing the crystals, knows that this is a Vasha creation, and she's like, "Baby, baby, you made us food!" And without even knowing what the effects of it are, she's going to eat one.
Okay, give me a roll.
That was to be expected.
It's Tara.
Yeah. Soul's like looking with like partial horror, but also
If you now won this, it's gonna definitely be from Blurbox.
She pretty much
I-
she got a 17. She pretty much
I got
not won
7.
it.
Yeah,
Understood.
yeah.
So keep track of this. For the next 3 times you have to make a roll, it's going to be at a -3.
Wouldn't it be
Or
plus
plus
3?
3, excuse
right?
me. Yes.
Okay. What is my? Do I have a harm for this?
Uh, you could just call it dubious food.
I'm gonna call it Doobie Foobie.
Doobie foobie.
Amazing.
How is the how many of those do you
Yeah.
have? Seriously, they can't be the first time.
I mean, you take your harms to 1 every session, so I
Yeah.
don't know how many I've had.
Right, but you're saved.
I would love.
Yeah, we don't have a save for that, do we?
I have a save for failed kissing, but not for failed to eat food.
How
You've
is
never
this you don't have
failed
a
to
fail
eat
for
food
dubious
before.
food? You're the trash eater.
This is the first time you've had food
Yeah,
be
but-
like a test.
yeah, but-
so-
Otter's not here, so she doesn't have to roll the vomit every 20 minutes.
to be fair, she
Yeah, there's a
does
lot of
already
constitution
kind of
rules.
do that with potions, but that's just the normal. Maybe she's just purging so
Right.
often she never has to worry about the food she eats.
And for once, she actually ends up doing. Oh, it's wonderful. Vasha's the best. Oh, Vasha baby. Oh, that's so good. Oh, here, I'll be right back in a minute.
Barfing
You
sound.
just hear
Distorted barfing sound.
Like-
What you do here is that she's turned on the sink, the bathtub, and flushing the toilet full blast, so that it's just a cacophony. It sounds like a trash heap is going on in there, and she's kicking the trash can at the same time while she's barfing. That way, like, no one has to hear it. She doesn't want Fasha to hear it. She doesn't want Fasha to know she got sick from it. She
Yeah.
just wanted her baby to know that she enjoyed the food. That's all.
I'm gonna say that with that, I'm not gonna make you roll the familiar thing this time. Just cause I feel like you paid your price already.
I did my time.
Shaka
I
said, what
flew
lesson
up.
did we learn, Tara?
I flew up.
I flew up.
I flew up.
And then like what would be failed holding your food down.
One more time?
For
Sorry.
failed holding food down or something.
You can call it dubious food if you want.
Oh, yeah. The save though.
Oh yeah, down failed to resist food.
Oh, yeah. Fair.
Or failed intestinal defense.
Failed intestinal. Got it. Thank you.
Tara, Shy would like to know what lesson you learned today.
Not a single fucking one. All food, good food until proven otherwise.
All food, good food until proven otherwise.
Yep.
Are Zisk and Tara related?
I swear to God that the kobolds are gonna break down the front door if you wait any longer.
Oh, as soon as I was already outside.
Oh, what's going on?
1 second, sorry.
Okay.
I thought we lost connection for a minute.
That's what I thought was going on too. That's why I was checking in. We've been having internet fuckery lately, so I just assumed that we died.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that works for me. Sorry, we were discussing the function of an anima real quick.
Okay, yeah, I gotta manage ninja mills.
No worries. I should have been more clear about that. Yeah, Firefist, as you open up this the front door, you undo the lock and you just immediately see little grubby hands like just starting to poke through the side.
This make it sound like the toys from fucking Toy Story going, the
Violet!
claw.
Violet! What?
Yes.
You're being called to the city.
All right. I'll go with you.
It's a joyous day. It's, I mean, they kind of like a few of them shrug. It's like, I mean, we celebrate basically everything, but this is an especially good day for celebration. So we pulled out all the stops. There are prizes, really good prizes, a really nice game. It's called a rock knife. And if you participate, you might even get the prize. It's a big crystal. It's really strong. And we kept it from Kiwi. He was gonna eat it, but we told him no. We didn't want him to become a bomb. But you can get it if you win. And we can also we're also gonna make you look really cool for the tournament.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, you're allowed to bring one other person, but no combatants. That's the one rule. That's what they said. One person, no combatants. Aragon didn't want anybody else to come that was gonna be fighting.
That's fine. I've already got somebody in mind. It's just gonna take him a second to get here.
That's fine. Just be sure you're there at some point by the end of the day.
Are you bringing
It'll
someone
do.
other than a party member?
I am.
Who are you bringing, Firefist?
Ozzy's coming to town, baby.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
What?
bringing a fucking god with you?
I'm
I am.
sorry. I'm sorry. Hang on. He's
Yeah.
okay. All right. I didn't know that could happen. Lightly terrified, but okay. All right.
Now
I mean,
I feel inadequate as a +1.
he's a guardian of metal. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Isn't he
That
the servant of
that's
Satan?
You know what that has the vibes of? The fucking Queen of England going to have cake at a random person's birthday party
Mhm.
and being like,
yes.
I want cake. I don't
Dude,
care if I'm the Queen of England. I want
The
cake.
kobold are
But
gonna
man, the
have
security risk.
the kobold are gonna have like stars in their eyes. I swear to God, they're gonna have both Fire Fist and the literal god of metal right next to each other.
It's like bring your parent to work day for Firefest.
Right? All of you gonna have better times than me and Luna. This sucks.
Aw, Red, they'll be good. Like, hey, if anyone can make a good time of a stuffy party, it's gonna be you. Tara's gonna freaking rib him a little bit.
Sure, he could slip in a murder or two. He's probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, he could use a
we're
burger
not.
as a.
We're not
Oh,
condoning that.
come on.
Look. It's too close.
Sauces.
Look,
Hmm.
well, hang on. Hear me out. It's too close to the start. If someone
No, it's
else
not.
there dies, in the same way that Luna took out the
It's
last
just
guy,
a matter of
they're
time
gonna
before
know.
someone comes out here to assassinate you. Be thankful we've all been together.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they'll get suspicious if someone else dies while Luna's with them.
I drowned the last guy in the toilet. I don't think there's plenty of
Well, never mind.
That
He
was
just throws his
everything
hands
I
up.
needed
Never
to hear
mind.
this moment. This is everything I needed to hear this morning. Thank you. It truly is a joyous day. There are prizes, and there was a man drowned in a toilet.
Luna, it's time for pancakes. Who would like to
Oh
roll
my
for
God.
pancakes this joyous day?
You're rolling for pancakes. You haven't made them before, remember?
A 4. Luna whips up some beautiful pancakes. They have some. She even has a special bottle of syrup. She was saving for the tournament day, but given that we're all going, she cracks open a bottle of syrup that she's definitely always had. Don't worry about the implications of that. Anyway, it's a kind of honey maple
There are
mixture.
definitely implications that I am catching.
It's very very delightfully smelling, very very fluffy pancakes, very sweet sauce. Everything is beautiful. There's even some fruit. Look at that. Oh my god. Yummy.
Oh, this beats ground churros every day.
She kind of like, hands a little bit to puts a little bit on everyone's plate. Well, go on. You can eat before you have to leave. It's okay. I don't think we're going to particularly enjoy the cuisine there anyway. I mean, we might, but I don't typically like rich people food.
What is
Doesn't
it? They
really
always
make-
have the weirdest shit in royal places. I thought it's always grotesque.
Pizza used to be a poor people food, and then it was taken by the rich.
I mean, at least that's a sensible choice. That was a good one, at least. I mean, the rest of it's like squeezing eggs out of a frog's ass, for God's sake.
That's true. I saw a queen do that once.
You know what tastes worse? You know what tastes worse than rich people food? Rich people.
Okay, hang on. Can we just one thing at a time here? What
I got not Reef.
Hey, wait. Eggs on a frog's ass, and then we'll get to the casual cannibalism.
Okay,
Well, I was
I
gonna
have.
say, Wreath, I want you to know the phrase "eat the rich" is supposed to be metaphorical, not literal.
Yeah, it's
That
supposed
too.
to be metaphorical.
I'm all about crossing boundaries, Firefist.
Clearly.
It's if you think about it, like Orion's kind of like, now hold on, like, hear me out. Now, if you think about it, that's a pretty powerful power move. I mean, and if you think about it, that's just recycling. Disease is not included.
No,
It's not cannibalism if you're not the same species.
It's
Terror
only
shot across the
cannibalism if
table.
you're not the
No,
rich.
she's got a point.
If you're the
No.
rich, then it's simply imbibing in the trend or drinking king's blood, like that. The thing they used to do way back when.
Do the rich is
We
just what I
literally
like to
have
call
eaten queen's
fucking around
blood.
and finding out.
This is a good breakfast. This is a very good breakfast.
I'm always for royalty not to have fucking around and finding out. See, they go far too long with the consequences. So when one does come back, oh god, it's bittersweet.
Oh,
Ugh.
it's going to be wonderful when we finally get to she like trails off. It's like, maybe not.
Squint. All right.
No,
Keep your
go
secrets
on,
then.
finish the phrase. Come on, we gotta hear it now. You're obligated.
Listen, all I'm saying is a guillotine would be very handy.
That's true, but let's be honest on something here. That's a little too quick and painless for all these fuckers.
Yeah, but you want to make sure the kill confirmed.
Oh, believe me, I can make sure the kill's confirmed in multiple ways. So far take longer and far more fun.
That's fair.
Are we sure
So,
we want him to be
Tara-
king?
Huh?
Are we sure we want Firefist to be king?
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I mean, to be fair, I couldn't do any worse than the rest of these fucks that's been in WATW all this time. Besides, at least I know what it's like to live on the absolute shite side of the street, so to say.
Sure.
In a very uncharacteristic way, Orion kind of like, tilts her forge aside and says, well, it can't get worse than the Queen of Glass Palace.
Awkward
It-
silence.
Wow, the unfucking your breaking that contract really did a number on you, didn't it?
Well, when you remember how they've, tortured your friend for many years and systematically abused you into being something that is uncharacteristically perfect, you begin to get a little bit of hatred back.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
you
sense.
know, it's fun. No, it makes sense.
No, yeah.
She chained
Full of
me
media
to the
agreement.
world.
Since the name should have been Atlas rather than Aurora.
She like taps her chest. I am not a dog. Why are you silent?
Oh no, just thinking about something from yesterday. Don't worry about it.
It's honestly it's just hearing you speak so damn freely after hearing you tight-lipped for so long.
Yeah, no, it's honestly kind of refreshing. Not gonna lie.
It's a wonder what you can do when you're not bound by a fucking contract you can't even read.
I'll try not
See-
to slurp up Satan next time.
Yeah.
I had no choice. Anyway, Kara, we taking Edge plus
Wha-
one. I'm assuming Vasha
Oh.
doesn't count.
Aw. That's.
That just means a free ticket for Varsha then, right? She doesn't count.
Yeah.
You're right. You're
idea.
so right. You're right. Free baby. Free baby. Free baby. Free baby. Free baby.
Reef air jails you. Focus.
He just like holds you.
Understood.
He just hold fucking Tara up and then jingle a few forks in front of her.
As she's kind of like miasmically floating around, she kind of like ends up orbiting a little bit around here. I'm not really good at doing parties. I'd really feel a lot better if one of you could come with me.
Yeah.
Orion, are you free?
I wouldn't mind paying.
I know
Dolores
that
to
you know
another
how to
visit.
handle. They were talking about the guns a lot, and we had to take away guns from the kids last time, and it might be. How good of a shot are you?
To be, she like when you ask that, like she pauses mid sentence, and you just see her face. She just stares off into the distance, sorrowful.
All right.
She's like,
Oh.
I'll put a sticker in the chat that is basically her expression, right? Which because Orion is really good with figuring things out. She is shit at aiming. She cannot fucking aim. Anytime she's tried to aim in the entire campaign from start to fucking now, she has not been able to aim. Every single time she has missed without fail. Every time.
That's right.
Well, that means you're the perfect person to bring along. All right, congratulations, you're my +1. Congrats on your ticket to a thing you don't want.
Okay.
No, it'll be fun.
What
There'll
are
be
the
other
odds
games
I
and
can
stuff like
miss
that. We'll have a
again?
good time.
What are the odds that
Hey.
God hates me that much that I'm gonna miss another time?
Ryan,
How am I
Ryan,
so
it's
bad
time
at
to change your
missing
perspective.
shots?
This could be your redemption arc.
I missed with a hammer at point blank range.
I believe. We'll do a training
you
montage.
Might, you
It'll
might
be great.
miss, but it'll be funny.
He's got a point.
He's got it. He's got it. Ruth, can I come out of air jail now?
He plops you onto the couch.
Ugh. Thank you. Again. Sorry, that was a little loud. I was excited.
You're fine. Okay, so seems like we're gonna make the classic mistake and split the party. Let's go.
Yippee!
I mean, it's not like we have a choice, narratively speaking. Yeah, it's
It's like the GM's been telling us about this for a week, and that we would have to.
a week. It's just been in planning for like 6 months.
Something like that.
Everyone have a good time at your parties. Be
The
safe.
fourth wall is holding on by a single thread.
I'm putting the fourth wall in air jail as soon as I figure out how Ritz powers work.
I'm just gonna start
There's
breaking the
Ritz in the
fourth
camera.
wall constantly.
It's
gonna
just
start
like
pulling
Greco.
my
Oh,
camera.
there's a raid coming in.
It's gonna be
Oh, it's a
like
raid.
fucking Jim from The Office. I'm just gonna start breaking the fourth wall intentionally.
Soul just stares at the camera for a solid 5 minutes, just straight at it.
It's
Unblinking.
wizarding time, and then he wizarded everywhere.
Credits roll. Fucking
Yeah.
the amazing digital circus, like the jazzy version of it.
Fucking perfect.
All right, you're staring directly into the camera. What do you say? What do you say to the people?
I start just aggressively playing the saxophone that I always had.
Da 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 da.
I will take that as a
I-
gift.
No, I didn't ever. No, that was a joke. I wouldn't actually look at the cameras. Be a dick.
You wouldn't. I would. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I would, but I didn't want to use the gear bubble.
Use the gear bubble for a saxophone. You're going. Wait, are you going to? Oh yeah, you're an independent,
No.
so you gotta be up to something different. That's right.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm all right, fine. I'm using the gear bubble for saxophone. So we're doing Karen's Whisper. I during the camera, I started randomly playing Karen's Whisper on the saxophone. I definitely
Yes!
If you don't pelvic thrust like an epic sax guy while you're doing it, I'm disappointed in you.
I am. I'm doing the whole fucking thing. Pelvic thrusting into the saxophone.
See, alright, in front of my fucking pancakes?
Yes.
Alright, he's probably shitting fucking pancakes. You might want to try eating them instead.
Oh, that's what I had wrong.
Apparently, I
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I know they call artists cake, but not quite literally in this case.
You fucking beautiful.
This is what place you guys are all heading off to your parties. You should see more diss as you leave the ship.
Hey, so can you play that really loud later on today?
I got you, no worries.
Sweet.
Okay.
I'll put it in the PA system.
Alright,
I was
well,
just gonna say on the ships you don't have to hear awkward things later.
Alice,
Oh.
you're capable of throwing an airship, right?
Please don't.
Yep. Capable of what?
Throwing an entire airship.
At great cost, yes.
Okay, we might need you to do that.
Please don't.
I'd rather not.
I'm right here.
You
Oh,
coming,
right.
Luna?
right. Yes, sorry.
Thank you for the
So-
pancakes, Luna.
No worries.
What's the fire fist?
Oh, he just left. He's like, I guess this shit on the road.
All right. Damn, no ass smack or nothing. Bye, buddy.
Fine, he'll run back in and clap your fucking cheeks. How about
Yeah.
Yeah!
Hold on. I got it. Got it. Huh.
that?
I was looking at them like, damn.
You know,
Could
him
be.
saying clapping
She-
cheeks as Solstice playing Careless Whisper. It has a
She
different
just,
meaning.
like,
That's beautiful.
Turns the chair like, yes, absolute cinema.
The slap.
Did you hear
is
it?
just- It echoes so loudly you hear it on the other side of the end of the city, for fuck's sake.
It's like
Brilliant.
Fitted
If this
Jake
was,
doing the cross kingdom clap.
If this was D&D,
Everybody's-
you should have rolled for damage.
As,
Oh.
as is everybody else is like, who the fuck's using American magic over there?
Okay.
Fucking
All right. Oh
amazing.
my god. Okay. Well, we should get moving. It is a long way to the Orisu.
Oh, yeah. Away we fuck, Alice. If you can, grab a nap today, Bab. Solstice,
Hello.
finger guns. Keep doing what you're doing. You got some good
Sounds
shit
good.
going on. I hope it's a good soundtrack for you, Alice.
Yeah, I
Wha-
wish you much mental fortitude.
What? I'm not that
Fortitude!
bad. What? Get out. Go. Get out. He's like waving you on as he was back in the chorus. This is
It is now you and Alice alone in the ship as
All right, so-
you are doing this.
that was the bit got tired. I had to play it for
No,
Hey, Siri.
no. Keep going. It was getting good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. She starts cutting. She goes under her pancake and starts cutting it, and just like maintains eye contact the entire time as she shovels into her mouth.
Oh my god.
That boy can play.
Fucking love it.
Was it Luna the sax player?
I guess he got lessons.
Yes.
I don't know, bro.
Yes, he got lessons, but yes, it was Luna. He was the
Oh.
drums.
No.
You guys haven't found there is a hidden drum kit somewhere in the Martyr Starlight. No one's
It's
found it
just
yet though.
Saber like in fucking anime music playing the drums with like laser hand.
Yes, yes, it is now. Yes, if you guys randomly hear drums, you go to find it. It's Saber. It's bump dum bump dum bump.
Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that in ages. I'm so tickled right now.
I love anime music.
Me
That's
too.
if I'm ever zoning out, it's just fucking anime music in my head all the time.
Also, it was fun seeing Alice use her goat mommy powers. It's been a while.
Wait, what?
I too am here for the goat mommy powers, but
My
I'm here
fucking
to see
what?
that.
Goat mommy powers.
What?
Just bullied Soul into playing sax for you as you ate breakfast.
No, he's got a point.
Well, that was a good. I haven't played saxophone in a while. Let me go ahead and turn on the regular ambiance for us here. Well, all right. So, Alice,
Oh
what have
my-
you been up to lately?
Go ahead, sorry.
Alice, anything new on your end? Just... Oh, okay.
1 sec for Viv. Okay.
Oh my god.
Trust. Did I ignite something with you when this started playing?
I recognized it. I don't know from where.
Watch Dogs 2.
Okay, I'm good. Sorry, what
Oh,
was the
I
question?
never played Watch Dogs.
You should play Watch Dogs.
I never
play
watched
it.
Dogs.
You should watch Dogs. Anyways, so Alice, anything new with you? What have you been working on?
Just trying to understand void travel.
Oh. You
I-
look like
I-
you've been trying to understand it all in one night.
Well, yes, but clearly I need to figure out how to bring people with me after what happened with the growth. And so far anything organic that I sent through that isn't me just disintegrates. So that's going great.
We have the tech from your ship. We have the punch ring. We can get there. We just can't be there for very long.
Yeah, but that involves moving an entire ship when I can just go.
True. I'm just saying we have it as a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
Also, kind of keep the stress off of you.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Also, Firefist, you do need to tell us what, or write in your character sheet, do one of the two, for what bond you would like back for enduring the cowboy.
Oh,
death.
I just uncrossed.
Okay.
Which bond did you decide on getting back? I'm curious.
No, I just alluded to it. Memories of home and family. I remember what my upbringing was like.
Oh, that's
Oh
right.
yeah,
Oh.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder on that. I appreciate it.
Which, speaking of, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, can we take a quick 5 minutes to go put the birds to sleep?
Absolutely, we can switch scenes to someone else.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So, which this is a good opportunity to mention that as of current, because we are currently working on it, or rather, we are having lovely, diligent hands working on the ship. If you will recall, Mark saying that he would be more than happy to help with that, and the kobolds being very, very eager to get their hands on some of the pieces of the ship. The Monitor Starlight is not able to move as of current, because of the ongoing upgrades.
Oh, that's right.
It's car time if you're up to anything then.
You could, but it's not advised unless you want a poor kobold to be sucked into an engine. So
Please don't goose a kobold.
No. Bird strike. Bird strike. Fire. Engine 1.
So,
Is there anything I need to do? I mean, I'm independent, so no one wants to meet with me.
so when we cut back to you, you will be able to talk with Saber a bit if you would like. There
Yeah,
are a
with that.
few things that you can chase with him. You can converse with Alice. You can help her on her stuff. You can research to level up. You can do as you wish. As of current,
Ooh, visit. Yeah.
we will cut to where Wreath and Alice are. Not
Luna.
Wreath and Alice. Wreath and Luna. Meh.
Wrong ship, waifu.
Ship waifu. Okay. If they're ship waifus, like, am I like a ship pet mascot?
Garbage
Trash
dispenser.
receptacle? Fuck
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna
All
say
right,
these
glad
are
we
the
cleared that up.
king and queen. There is not a kobold out here screaming about barbecue. Ignore them.
Terry, you know that exhausted cat girl that's the doctor in the lower decks show of Star Trek?
I have not gotten to see that yet, but
Okay.
Who's gonna use the
I have a
monsters?
feeling I'm gonna enjoy them.
Yeah,
I love
okay.
them. They're incredible. They do give very feral Terra vibes.
Yeah.
So you
Using
come
the fucking
into
zombies.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, they're the tokens that I had. It doesn't like it when I spawn a bunch of tokens, so it's easier to just use the ones I've already spawned that the game already doesn't like.
I mean,
so
it's appropriate for rich people.
yeah. It's as the ancient sayings go, rich people have no taste.
Until I take pizza.
Yeah, until they take pizza. Did you know
Yeah,
that,
but they
by the
take
way?
pizza and
Sorry,
they add
segue. I'm gonna break Wizards for just 1 second. Pizza was made because they wanted to cool down ovens at bakeries like quickly at night so they could go the fuck home. And they gave the scraps that were on those like slices of giant discs to fucking poor people because they wanted their people to be able to eat. Thank you for the we stop thing. But yeah,
That's
it gradually got
the wrong
fancier
one.
over time to become its own thing. And then rich people were like, damn, poor people eat like this? Anyway,
And then
Fucking
they
funny.
added gold flakes and truffles to them.
Caviar.
yeah. So let me grab my notes here.
I was trying to go for. I accidentally jealousized the.
Huh?
Nothing
What's up? Sorry.
to worry about it.
What? 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 What?
Well, that's why I recognize.
I was trying to mess with you and do this. But I angelicized the W and the M and forgot to typed in we menu music instead of me menu music.
Holy fuck.
This is a great way to get canceled.
No, it's not. Don't worry about it. It's
What
fine.
about my spine?
I know, I'm teasing.
They're going to make me into a blood eagle. Don't look that up. It's really bad. It's from the past. Do not bring it back. Holy fuck. Yeah, so you hear this lovely sound going on in a fucking ballroom. As let's see. The Templar celebrations that you two have to endure are extremely drab and very slow. They're somewhere in between a church or a court hearing. The parties are kept very respectful and soft. The food is something that one would find in a high-class restaurant, being oddly very small and incredibly expensive, although your expenses are paid. And oddly not tasting as good as the things that you could just get elsewhere. If you would like, you may choose to schmooze people. The general type of person you're going to be finding around in these areas are people who are quite out of performance. But you can tell you aren't these people, and they know that you aren't these people.
And fake being these people. I can fake being acceptable.
Sure.
Wreath's freaking the normal like slightly dinged up, intentionally dinged up look of Wreath has been he swags his clothes so they're like, you know, have like little gold ridges and he looks like a rich mage.
Yes, you swag. You aura max your way
Exactly.
into the fucking ballroom. And it was like, wow, I did not know you could do that.
I mean,
Do you have any idea how long it takes me to put on like any of this? Jesus.
so Luna, you may have noticed I don't like physical contact
Yes.
because I can taste through every single one of my cells.
Okay. You know what? I take it back. I don't want that.
That's what I thought.
That being said, though, you could. What would happen if you laid into like a lot of food, though?
Food kind of just goes through me.
Well, that's unfortunate. Although that does mean you can eat as much as you want.
Yes,
Hmm.
but it
Well,
also doesn't really taste like anything to me, so it's not really productive.
that's fair.
Anyways, I need
It,
to go figure out what the hell this new faction thing is, so I'm gonna go poke
So,
around for. I'm gonna go schmooze for information. Holler if you
uh,
need me to kill someone.
will do. So I have highlighted the these are the leaders, and then there are just some various people around. You can see there's even like I don't know why the hell they're here, but fuck it, yeah. You can see there's a mage that is sitting off on the side. There's the occasional like guard, like spotted every now and then, observing, just making sure everything's okay. They do they kind of shoot you an eye every now and then. Um, they don't seem particularly concerned with Luna after a little bit. At first, they were like, "What the fuck?" But then they're like, mm, "Being detected, understood."
Yep.
Trust, is this the vibe you're going for?
Oh yeah, that works perfectly.
I
Awesome.
love that. Yeah, good pick.
Yes.
I quite like jazz. I listen to jazz a lot, and this is actually a playlist I quite enjoy.
Oh, bless.
A few of the denizens are getting their respective food. Luna is going through. She's like, oh my lord, I've only ever seen this type of thing in magazines. Maybe one or two people over here too. Yeah. I would like schmooge Reef.
Wreath would be good at this, but I, as a player, fucking hate it. I guess Wreath would strike a conversation with someone and try to figure out anything about the new faction or any other important pieces of information.
Sure. Who would you? Which one of these Zimbabwe's would you like to approach?
I'm gonna go for the mage, actually.
Good evening. Lovely day, isn't
Boy,
it?
sure.
You don't look particularly comfortable being here.
I'm more of a making things work from the back rooms kind of guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'm contracted to them too. I understand.
Yeah.
So what brings you here? What's the
Just keeping their combatants safe, actually.
Oh, an escort. I love escort missions.
Hey, you do?
Yeah, it's not too bad actually. I just get to follow someone around, they mingle, do stupid things I don't care about, and then I get to relax and have whatever food I'd like.
Huh. Suppose it is silver lining.
Sure. I mean, I do have to get into combat every now and then, but it'd be boring otherwise, right? So
Yeah, I'm more of a seeking the combat type, or at least causing trouble.
that's
Keeps things
fair.
entertaining.
Though, do keep in mind, too much trouble will cause you to eventually get in over your head.
Oh, I absolutely am aware of that. Don't worry. What are they having you do?
My current job is to wait for them to ask me to do my next job. My previous job was to prevent somebody from being able to kill the last combatant. Unfortunately, I failed.
It happens.
It does. It
Wait, I'm
turns
sorry.
out that
That's out of character. I'm sorry. Did he say his last job was to protect the last combatant and
that is
failed?
correct.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
It turns out that drinking extremely heavily on the one particular night where there is an intruder happens to be my luck. So,
Hmm. Also, maybe not watching your drinks. I mean,
oh, it's fine. I've drank way worse intentionally.
So I heard something about there being a new faction. Did you hear anything about that?
Let's see. New faction, new faction. I am personally not aware of a new faction, although if the bigwigs up top talked about it, it's probably best to go talk with them. I'm sure they'd love to spill on how much better they are than someone else. Really just start up a conversation on something barbarian, something new people, and you'll be bound to get loads of information.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Don't worry. I should go check on my ward there. Let's make sure she's not getting in trouble.
Oh, I'm sure she's fine. Though, do keep in mind if she's don't take this the wrong way. She doesn't seem to move like a combatant.
I know. That's part of the charm.
I understand. Well, have a lovely one.
You do.
You
Wait,
see,
goes to join Luna.
yeah, you see, like she's admiring some sweet rolls that have been prepared. They are very ornately dressed. They have like little dustings of nutmeg and other seasonings you guys don't normally get to experience when going from place to place.
Mhm. Are there any signs of danger or anything I should look out for?
Other than people kind of you see like people occasionally will try and either be standoffish of Luna or will kind of try and butter them up or be excessively nice. You know?
Usual stuff.
Yeah. But this is a generally safe area, all things considered.
Mhm.
There's not really much that can happen here other than just being drab and boring.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as long as it stays that way, Wreath will keep an eye out, because if Luna dies, Soul won't let him hear the end of it.
So we'll shoot you for real.
I know. Technically did already, but
I made sure to add in my notes about this area is the only danger is dying of boredom.
the you see the people you saw on the orb are actually over here.
yeah.
They're on
Wreath says to Luna, when you're done gawking at the food, we should probably go talk to the bigwigs.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I got a bit distracted. Yes, I have my plate. I can go over there.
Yeah, let's go.
Yes. I'm very
Wreath
sorry.
gives them whatever appropriate. Wreath approaches them with whatever appropriate courteous bow or whatever you're supposed to give people their station.
Would you please like roll for if you can like kind of bumblefuck your way through like their customary bow?
I mean, okay, never mind.
You can what do you have any skills that are
No.
okay? You can take ones like acting or something similar, or guessing.
Sure.
Yeah, or adapting. You can
So
take
it
the
start at 7.
yeah.
And
You can take
what
the
harm do you want me?
harm like uh you can take the harm foreign. You do a like a bow that is somewhere between uh a few kingdoms that you are aware of. Like maybe it's a little bit of the waste, maybe it's a little bit flavored by the glass palace. Maybe you try some like hand symbol or something, but it's not whatever it is, it wasn't right.
Sure. It's not like I'm pretending to be from here.
Yeah.
Bro throws up peace signs like sup.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh.
Knowing Reeve, it's more like, okay, they're not in either of the 3 cults I know of.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
welcome. We've been waiting for you. Yes, please sit down. It's fine. Um, how is our combatant doing today? And her guard, I assume.
Yep. My name's Reeve.
Fantastic. Good to meet you. That name seems oddly familiar, though I'm sure it's fine. Worst case scenario, I have heard you of doing some nefarious things, which means you'll keep them very safe.
That's the plan.
Fantastic. Then it's none of my concern. Luna, it is lovely to see you here. I'm delighted to have you gracing our halls. This time not with bloodshed. And it's very good to meet the person behind the name. Uh yeah. Um it's good to be here. It's very nice, very ornate.
I noticed there's still a barbecue kobold nearby, and I like think the kobolds just snuck in.
Yeah, there's just a kobold like in the vent. And he just like holds up his finger like shh. He's got like he's got like a little like he's supposed to be a spy, but he brought like a little tiny bowl of barbecue so he can just kind of nom on it while like watching the ballroom kicking his feet, you know?
Be immensely bored.
Yeah. Um, he pulls out like a little a die or something and then starts rolling it for fun. You can see him like put his fingers in front of his face and start like squishing the heads of the different people. um, yes, so we would like to ask you what your plans are for the future of the kingdom should you get the win, should you succeed. What do you have as an idea? We would hope that you would maybe want to make this place a little more civilized, a little more cohesive. Um, I don't. I've mostly worked in policy between kingdoms. I think that would be where my strong suit would lie. I don't know much about the internal relations aspect, but I'm confident I can figure it out. Ah, well, should you need any help, just let us know. We'll be happy to handle that side for you if you need. And her guard.
There seems to be
Go ahead.
an immense amount of untapped potential if you could get the different factions to cooperate better in this city, I will say from my time here.
Yes, the other factions can be barbaric. Um, they don't typically like to cooperate. The kobolds are always busy celebrating something, and Greed's far too busy wallowing in his own hatred.
I see.
Yes. It takes I feel like it takes a bit of finesse to run a kingdom, personally. But expectation for the finer things. I feel like that's probably the reason we haven't been taken seriously thus far.
It's always a balance between to figure that out. I recall in the others mentioned something about another faction. I don't believe they didn't pass me that information. Could you catch us up on that?
Oh, yes, apparently some other kingdom, though I can't figure out which yet. And the information's still new, and so if you would keep it to yourself. But some kingdoms trying to get a hold in the city. They don't normally last long, the tiny factions. They come in, they make a stir, and then they go away. It'll probably get them a seat in the tournament if they're influential enough, but it shouldn't be much to worry about, usually small fry.
That would really depend on the kingdom.
Of course, though, given that they don't seem to be an encroaching army, it's probably a small group. I would not imagine that they would be match for someone who managed to dispose of so many people so quickly when our previous combatant had gone.
Ruthkins. Yeah, she's very mild mannered when you know her in person, but God is she scary when she actually starts fighting.
She's like she like chokes on her sweet roll as she's just yeah, yes, I am quite proficient.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Smooth move, X-Lax.
I am. I like to keep my powers hidden, so that I am unexpected. Um. Um. Anyway, more on this faction. Uh, and he's like, oh yes. From what I can tell, their leader calls themselves the Envoy, which is not descriptive or unique. Not very creative either. They don't seem to have made any major moves yet. I'll have to keep an eye out, though.
Fair enough. Do you,
So, well,
what's
anyway.
one sec?
But,
Ninja Mail.
yes.
And by Ninja Mail, I mean Soul screaming at us in chat. Is there a name? Is there a name to the faction?
Unnamed Faction 1.
As far as you are aware, the faction currently, like, they don't know the name of it, or they haven't, like, officiated a name yet. All you know is that the leader of said faction is called the Envoy.
For a placeholder, Soul says, call it the Envoy's Faction.
Yeah.
I just put in they don't have a name or they haven't come up with one yet. I just wanted to know for the because I put the envoy. I'm like, who the fuck's the envoy representing? Is I'm here
call
as a
them-
representation of my god. Which god? I don't know yet.
You can call them bitches gonna get stitches.
Bitch, the bitch's envoy.
So, what is this? We would like to help Luna win her battle. What is her preferred method of combat? Does she have a preferred uh, style? Something we can get a trainer to help them a bit. We would have reached out sooner, but unfortunately, we had quite extensive repairs to see to.
Uh,
She like kind of just looks at you and then like kind of flicks her eyes back like.
she really likes to adapt what she's doing to the opponent at hand.
Reed, just say you're a trainer.
But you can handle any training she's got with our resources, and I can handle most of it.
So
Not
you're
too
a
worried.
trainer.
We're companion. I travel with her, so I give her pointers for sure.
Of course. Well, you're in good hands, and should you need help, let us know. We'd be happy to make it
Certainly.
as easy as possible for you to make your way up. Though, don't forget about us when you win. It would be a shame. We're depending on you, you know.
Of course.
You see like little kobold in the bench, just like laying on his back, like, ah.
Reef telepathically boops his nose.
It's like you hit the power switch. He's out cold. Is there any more information you'd like to get from them?
Could I think we have information on most of the combatants, but we're still missing one. We've met Greed's combatant. I believe there should be 8 in total, correct?
Oh God, let me count. Let's see, breathe.
There were 8 before I went all choppy on a few of them.
Yeah, so you have Fire Fist, Hera, Solstice, the Envoy, Marks, and Luna. So there's 6.
Okay, so the envoy's the last one.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit more details about how the tournament actually goes down?
Oh, certainly. It's very simple. You'll be taken to the arena. You'll be on the outside, schmooze with people. And then you'll get straws drawn for who is fighting who. As standard bracket system, anything goes. That's how it usually goes down. Sometimes we'll have specific rules. Other times we don't. It's kind of just the flavor of the year, really. We've pushed for more specifics, but unfortunately, the other factions, the other 2, I guess 3 currently existing factions, seem to not appreciate the rules that we would like. So it's been an upward battle.
Yeah. Perhaps there can be something more standardized for future
I should hope
coronations.
so. Previously, we've had the request for a standardized set of weapons, a standardized expectation for the magic that will be used. Unfortunately, we had quite heavy resistance from the Sisters of Malice when they were still a threat. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about them anymore.
I've heard their remnants have dissolved into the other factions. Do you have any former Sisters of Malice amongst your group?
Oh, gods, no. No,
Then would you know,
when they came begging, we left them on the street.
given from what I've understood of their track record, fair enough. Do you know where they ended up?
I would assume they would probably have gone to the outskirts. Maybe they found their home with Greed. He'll take anyone who'll work. Or maybe amongst the kobolds. They're a lively, kind sort.
They don't really work well with non-kobolds, though, unless they're permanently under potions.
Of course, though they give that to you at the gate.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine doing that. Ugh. I would not enjoy being a kobold. That shrill voice, having claws, clank on everything and scratch up everything you try to grab. Ugh. You know they were built to
Let
eat
me at 'em.
corruption. Go ahead, sorry, Tara.
I'm sorry, I know I'm not in this scene, but let me fucking at him. Let me at him.
I heard about that. What happened? What went wrong with that? Because being
There's
able
an
to eat
uprising.
corruption would be useful.
Wait,
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Bob?
I missed the question. What is he asking about here?
He's asking them about what happened with the kobolds being built to eat corruption.
Oh, thank you.
They were
So
experiment.
there was a
Sorry.
okay. Oh, go ahead.
Their experiment by Greed. He was going to try and fix the problems that he had with the machines he likes to work with. he was going to try and up productivity and reclaim the waste, as he said several times before. He experimented and tried a few things, and ultimately he did end up with a viable result, but not one that could do what he wanted. So, he instead geared them toward as much production as he could. You've probably seen how many of them there are.
Yeah,
And
I saw that.
that bit him in the foot.
Hmm. That's usually what happens when you try to build a slave class.
It would seem so.
But are they able to eat corruption? I've seen one or two of their magicians. They seem to be able to do a lot.
Their magicians are stranger still than ours. We're not sure what their capabilities actually are. It's rare that there's a kobold magician in general. So it's hard to keep them still and focused for long.
Good to know.
Let's see. Luna, we're going to get you nice and outfitted. All we need to do is we need to make sure that you and I suppose your plus one are taken directly over to the tailors, the armory, whatever you need. Let's get started sooner than later, and let's go ahead and get that done. Oh shit! Hello, I'm being paid. Thank you.
Oh shit!
For calling.
Well,
Hey, I have not welcomed and sometimes doing. I do not recognize you. Where are you?
yeah.
Hello. Yeah,
I've seen your face.
yeah. It's lovely to see you people.
And
Ooh, a Demon Slayer RPG or TTRPG. That sounds interesting.
ooh,
That's fucking cool.
yeah.
Hell yeah! Welcome in. We're playing Wizards of the Waste. It's a TTRPG all about being wizards in the waste. We have Solstice, Alice, Firefist, Terra, Orion, and Wreath. If you would like to do a short blurb about your characters.
Hi, I'm Alice. I'm a goat that comes from another world. I was trapped between worlds and they found me and I do weird shit.
Yeah.
My name's Tara, and I eat trash.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm a weird little wizard. I'm a weird little lizard wizard. That's about the most of it. I work with mostly light magic.
I breathe. I hurt people.
Yeah.
But I had to get right on the mic for that one.
I try.
Go ahead, Firefist.
Oh, yeah. Mostly just a funny list that likes to play a lot of metal music and, break shit.
Yeah, we be doing this shit right here.
Not in the fake way like Limp Bizkit likes to pretend, now the real way like actual metal artists like to do.
Solstice, would you like to introduce your character really quick?
Yeah. I'm Solstice. Two people recently become one after becoming two people via some really weird magical experimentation.
Yippee.
Playing around with some new powers.
He has the power of anime on his side.
He
I
does.
do. I also have an airship.
However, God, not quite so much.
He's getting there.
And then, hi, I'm Orion. I am a dementia princess.
Princess.
I love that so
That's
much.
terrifyingly accurate.
um, Continuing on, yeah. So, with much to Luna's grievous dismay, as they have some of the delicious honey glazed chicken in their hey, thank you for following. I appreciate you guys. Much to Luna's grievous dismay, she is like quickly being like ushered. Like, yes, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get done. I tire of these conversations. And I'm getting restless. Thinking about these factions has me perturbed. And she has like a chicken like hanging out of her mouth. She's like, I wanna go. She, very quickly. Yes, yes, yes. I'm ready. I'm ready. Ready. Yes. And they will. Kind of
I'll
just
follow along, obviously.
yeah, they just kind of usher her out of the ballroom, out of the little like quaint little thing. You're basically just dragged through shitloads of small little events and things. Um, you're offered many many times to change her outfit to something that bears the crest of the Templar. Um, many times many
It's
times.
up to her if she wants. It's up to her if she wants it.
Oh, she gets put into a like a yellow flowing um uh dress after trying a few sets of armor that didn't really suit them. It has the large insignia of the Templar on the back. It does have a few like lamellar plates around, but it's mostly just for show. She also gets a nice little knife. She didn't seem to take
A
to any of the
knife!
other. Yeah, she was offered other weapons, but she's like, I just want a knife.
Well, we can show her how to use that.
Yes, I'm sure Mr. Stibby Stabby knows how to use the knife well. Is that a cricket outside my room, or did someone just do that?
What?
Wait, what happened?
Okay, yeah. So there's just this loud ass cricket outside my room, or grasshopper or something.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I heard that. I thought you did like a soundboard of like a cricket or something. I was like, damn, okay, shit.
Well, it's just a literal cricket.
Yeah,
Mother Nature herself is insulting you.
I know it was crazy. I know. It's a boring party. I'm sorry. This is how it is. Um,
If I can get a minute with Luna on the way back, I'm gonna ask her something.
yeah, sure.
Should that be now, or did you plan to have her go through anything else
No,
before
it's
you
fine. It's
switch?
basically just as you're going throughout the day whenever you get a chance. Right.
Alright. So Luna's gonna, or Reeth's gonna ask, "Hey Luna,
Yeah, what's up?
tell me the truth. Are you developing wizard powers?"
Um, I don't know. I've not I've not felt the same after using the tiara a few times, but I don't think it's anything too concerned about. Be concerned about. Either.
Hmm. I mean, keep an eye on that. Being a wizard is,
Mayberry.
well, you know as well as everybody else, it's not necessarily the most pleasant life experience.
Yes, I'm aware. It's okay.
Because, we'll have to get you trained up if you're actually developing actual wizard powers and get you a focus and all that.
Oh, I'm sure
Oh,
it's
God. If we tell that to Orion and Terra, they're gonna have a heyday.
Oh,
Do I have a way of checking if she has wizard powers? Besides, the
you
very
could
evil
try
ways
going into
that
her
Reeth.
brain. I don't know that I recommend that, but you're.
I've thought at that. Yeah, I think this is my first time alone with her. We're not at cranial penetration yet. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think there's just any like easy way to do that other than just like aiming the tiara at her and then seeing what happens. But
I ain't fucking with that thing.
That's,
Alright.
I joke that when we gave Firefist the ring, that there was no way he was going to accept something that was enchanted by Orion. I'll say
I think I joked that.
To be fair, if other people are overseeing it, then he has more of a chance of trusting if it's not just Orion.
Yeah.
You wouldn't accept a random gift from me.
Accepting a random gift for you is like accepting a random chance of herpes. You never know if it's going to be a good experience or bad experience, but either way, something dangerous is waiting at the end for you.
But yeah. There's no easy way to tell. You could probably find someone who can tell if you needed to get them examined, but I mean, there's not.
There's not a pressing need for it.
No, you're right. It doesn't seem like
So-
there's any overarching like crazy signs.
So for real, your combat plan's gonna be a tiara and use whatever their powers are against them?
That's about all I can do. Yeah.
Alright. No. I'll be around if we need to. If you need me to pretend to be you or something.
Oh, no,
Again.
it's fine. I mean, like I know that wizards are more durable and they don't have their magic still, but once they have their magic taken away, most people just collapse. They can't handle it. It's fine.
If you say so. Just again, don't take unnecessary risks. I don't want to have to scoop up Soul emotionally again.
I'll be safe. I'll be fine. I don't have any concerns. I mean, I'm a bit worried about the envoy, but Mark seemed nice. Everyone else has been nice. I really don't think I have to worry about the 1 in 6 chance of facing off against someone who's going to be mean. 1 in
1 in
5
6
even.
chance is not a terrific odds, but alright.
I mean, it's not the
Well,
worst. Could be significantly worse. We started with a guaranteed chance that I'd be going against 7 other people.
oh, I took care of that pretty quick.
Right.
Okay. I'll go, I'll have to go and investigate this envoy guy. Shall I drop you off at home?
Yeah, sure. That'd be nice.
So Wreath will bring Luna back and then he's gonna go poke around about the envoy thing.
Which, as saying that as you go to leave, um, like, oh no, you're staying here till the tournament.
Oh,
We have a room prepared. We have everything set up. It's fine. You're free to leave and come back as you wish, but this is where you will be for the most part until the tournament.
Wreath squints. I guess I'm not investigating the envoy.
Don't worry, we have our own people on that.
Yeah, that's what happened to the last guy.
He's like, yeah, the guy kind of, wow, we are putting more resources into it now.
Wreath squints.
He strikes an imposing pose. The decision's final.
Oh no, it's fine that she's staying here. It's just I'm not sure about me not being around then. Because I was gonna go figure out who the hell this envoy person is.
The last time we had one of our combatants without their assigned guard, they died.
Yeah, that's kind of my concern.
Right.
So I
So
guess
you
I'm
should stay
staying
next
here
to
is
her.
my point. Yeah, that was my point. I believe I am staying here is what I'm gathering of the situation.
So yeah, uh, that is you're unfortunately trapped by the by the odds that be. So let's go with would someone go ahead? Sorry.
God, it's tempting. Do I? No, I'm gonna let you move to the next scene and not cause terrible shenanigans.
Okay. Would
Unless you
someone
want me to.
please roll me a d6 and divide that by half?
Sure, I got you. 3. 1.5.
Okay. We will go to what the fuck was what was the third one? Ah, right. Hold on. I sure have it somewhere.
No, you said divide by half, so it's the interest
No,
is
I'm
1.5.
aware, but I got the joke, but I'm there we go.
D3s are rounded up, so it's 2.
Go. I know.
Um, no, not Solstice. No, not Atlas. Let's see, where is we use this as a founder? Bucket. There's people. Huh.
Oh, I'm gonna ninja mail you one thing though.
Yes. I have also been ninja mailed as well on other things. So I need 2. Yeah, just place them kind of around. Mind? Yeah, there we go.
There we
So,
go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Dorisu, of course. Enjoy their excuse. Oh, let's see. Can someone put on some? Actually, I got it. Hold on. Let's see.
The zombies are fucking killing me. This is hilarious.
I've sent you my ninja mail.
Yep. I will have a look at that momentarily. Boop. I assume that's probably gonna be fine.
Is this? Yep.
No. Okay, that was not what I meant. Can you find me something if you don't mind?
Give me. Tell me what you're looking for.
Foundry, steampunk, something mechanical.
Steampunk party music.
Sure, fuck it. Um, Diorsu, of course, enjoy their excuses to bake to get rid of the old freezer burned ingredients and more accurately burn old ammo or dispose of weapons. So as you arrive at the Orsu place, it is fancied the fuck up. They have balloons. They have crazy little streamers everywhere. They are having much fun in their shooting range off to the side. And you see that these kind of this area where all of the stockpiles were have kind of been opened up to be more expended and researched during the time that this is happening. They basically turned the research of those items into a game. You see that there is yet another baking competition that has been that has been erected because of the excuse of having you come by, essentially.
Oh my god.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's nice in here.
Yeah, I confess I didn't expect that either.
Oh,
And the
you
founder,
guys did a bang up plane. Yeah, you did a bang up job of the place. Like she's gonna jerk to the. Jesus fucking Christ, too.
What? What's going on? What's the problem? Yeah.
Sure.
What's going on?
Who
sure.
put Eggman's theme into the fucking mixer?
Fuck it, that
See,
works.
this is a team effort. Firefish said it. I did
I love you. I love both of you.
it.
The founder is gonna like, Tara, Orion, hello, welcome in. We have two glorious events going on at the same time. We decided we have a lot of old things that go blam, and we have a lot of things that are trapped in the freezer. So we have a baking competition that's going on that you are free to participate in for the infinite bucket. I will not explain further. And if you participate in the shooting range instead, you can win that fucking thing. We don't know what it does. It's a big gun, probably. We don't know. It looks powerful, so we put it on a pedestal and had it as a prize. People seem to really want their hands on it, and I don't trust anybody with it, so we're just letting it go to whoever can aim the best. That way, whatever result happens should be fine. Welcome in. We don't really have outfitting. That was a bit of a fib. We don't really have anything for you in that department, but we have a shitload of pie.
I will happily take that. She just goes like she just sails into the room to go find pie.
So this competition, exactly. What do we just how does that work? Oh yeah, it's
How's
very
what work?
simple. I was asking how the competition worked.
Okay. Actually, can we switch tracks? The lyrics are
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
with me.
Sorry. Yep.
No, it's all good. I fucking
like how
loved it.
much-
That was so fun.
I like how much goleming we're making Trust do today.
Thank you. Um, the there's another kobold just kind of chilling in the vents of the founder's room. They are also eating a little bit of barbecue. Kicking their feet, being bored, and occasionally scared, and hitting their head in the vent. From the blast of a gun going off. So how exactly do these work? Do these events work? Are they like how do they do? Uh, the founder responds, in of course their accent that I cannot do. Uh, and they're like, oh yeah, so the baking one's very simple. We'll give you random ingredients from the fridge. They will probably work for something. And you'll figure out how to do the best of what you got. The range is also very simple. You'll be given a random weapon. You'll be trying to do the best you can with the weapon you get, and whoever does the best will get the prize. Essentially,
It's like we sent the two worst people for these competitions.
basically, yes.
That's hilarious.
So, you are welcome to participate at your leisure. We don't really have too much expectation from you other than that you stay along until the tournament arrives. You can feel free to leave and come back as you wish, though you should return here just for security and safety purposes.
That sounds baller. Thank you.
Of course.
I'm very excited to see if there is to work with.
Indulge. So, okay. What do you want to get into, I guess? I didn't really expect there to be... Accuracy and baking
get-
are both not my strong suit, I do confess.
I didn't really
Oh,
think this through either.
Yes.
Never mind.
But also, I would like to get a big shiny thing. And you, too, I would assume, would also like a big shiny thing. Yeah?
Yes, I would like to know what the giant weapon is. I'm not quite sure about that. Although the infinite bucket is very ominous, infinite of anything is quite promising.
I need it.
So, which one would you like to do? Anything in particular? Also, why'd you pick me exactly?
You gave me a nice dress.
Fair enough. To be fair, I did do that maliciously.
Oh, I got a nice dress out of it. Works for me then. You want to give a kobold a gun?
I did think that would be very funny.
Let's go find one. They just take off together as the music rises.
To find the errant gun that's just left to the side to give the spy a gun.
Just hand it up to him, be like, go, do a crime.
Yeah, you just see like their eyes like widen very very big, and you just see them slink away into the vent with a pistol on their side.
Oh, this will have no consequences whatsoever. But you know what? It brought me great joy to do. All right. Well, let's be honest. What do you feel most confident in doing? I'll take whichever one you're thinking.
No, I would like you to tell me I am your guest.
Ah, that's fair. I want to tackle baking.
Sure,
The pies they call to me.
sure. Cool. I got this. I actually did prepare a mini game for each of these places. Um, let's see. You are presented as you approach this a large slew, this pile of random assorted ingredients and etc. The specific ones that you're given and that you have to make something with are, let's see, you're given a small pail of water, a few quail eggs, a sweet smelling fruit they call the babble fruit, an avo root, whatever that is, some baking soda, some vinegar, and extremely odd smelling oil, though all these are assured quote unquote safe to eat. Basically, the way this is going to work is you describe how you use those ingredients, and the council of players will decide whether or not you've done a good enough job.
Can you send me the ingredients?
I will indeed. I will put them in the.
Thank you.
Let's see. I will put them in the little chat here so that you can all judge us perfectly.
Is this just Chopped?
It is.
I love Chopped. I love that show.
Yeah.
It makes me hungry.
I don't know how to bake. I don't know how to bake. I've never baked in my life. Oh, that's a lie. I
Well,
did try to bake once, and then I was forbidden from doing it again. I'm pretty sure I created a biohazard.
oh, how do you feel about chopping?
Sure, I can do that. She
Do you like knives?
I love knives.
Let me see if Toomey's available.
Oh no. Okay. So we have okay. So we have eggs, we have water, we have fruit, we have a root, we have baking soda, vinegar, and oil. I don't know what these do.
Hmm.
Do you know what
Well, I
these
think
do?
that we'll use. I mean, I've never even heard of a babble fruit, but I'm looking forward to it. Uh, let's. I want to try using the babble fruit as the filler.
Sure.
Do you have any? Is the let's see, is the Ava root a sort of like I'm assuming it's starch. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It is definitely something you could crush into a fine powder.
Let's go ahead and do that then. We're gonna
What is
take
choice
the.
if it's between your thighs?
Oh my god.
That's happening with the quail eggs.
So yeah, we take this fucking cringe root and crush it into powder.
Okay.
Kara's
And we're
maternal
gonna.
instinct.
Was that?
I'll just say it in chat and I'll stop interrupting you guys.
I like hearing your interjections. This is fun.
Oh, I was gonna say Tara's maternal instincts kick in, so she lays on the quail eggs, hatches them, and then Orion barbecues the hatchlings.
That's some fable fuckery right there.
Okay, so I can crack the eggs. I've got the uh
Yeah.
the
Put
wets
the
and
quail
dries.
eggs
That's
into
all
the
I
Ava
know.
root. Yep, wets and dries. So what we're doing is we're gonna wet the dries.
Okay. So we put everything
And
into the same bowl.
not everything. No.
That doesn't make any sense. You just told me to mix the wet and the dries.
Well, we're gonna finish putting together the dries and the wets, and then we'll wet the dries. Got it?
Okay.
Okay. So what we do is we're going to put the quail eggs, ava root, baking soda, and water together.
Okay.
But we're gonna do the wet ones first. So the quail eggs and water,
Okay.
and then the baking soda and the ava root.
Are you mixing any of
Sound
this at
good?
all? Are you just raw dogging it?
No. Am I mixing it?
Are you mixing it? Like, are you like beating the eggs or anything? Or are you just like raw dogging it into a bowl?
Oh, I'm gonna beat it all together when I get all the
Okay.
liquid ingredients together. So I'm gonna be I'm whisking the wets.
Okay.
While
Excellent.
if you're down to help me put together the baking soda and ava root.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. She's like,
Perfect.
she like fucking.
We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this.
It's just
Roll
like, just start
together.
taking the pommel of the sword and crushing the shit with it.
You were the right choice to bring along. And she goes back to what she's doing. She's gonna start chopping up some of the babel fruit with to start like chunking it into the pieces.
Yes. Okay.
Uh.
This seems like we're doing something with purpose. I think.
Hey, there you go. That's the spirit. What is the closest approximate we have for this oil?
It's it. If it were in real life, you would be very suspicious of this oddly transmission fluid looking ass oil. It isn't, to be clear, but it's very close in consistency.
I'm going to
I-
pour it into a shot glass and drink it.
Isn't that what Unknown drinks for breakfast?
It is.
I'm
Oh my God.
sorry.
Transmission fluid.
No, I'm not trust.
It does not taste good. It doesn't immediately poison you at the very least, but it doesn't
It's
taste
gear
good.
oil. No, it does. It's gear oil. It is fucking gear oil. We're not having this conversation for the 18th time.
I'm not having that conversation. I'm telling Tara what the oil tastes like.
Oh, I thought we were doing the bit.
No.
Okay, never mind.
No, it's not my fault that transmission fluid looks like a delicious Chinese sauce.
So I was zoned out. You snatched me back with that statement, and I immediately went to please for the love of God do not mode.
So Tara, yeah, it doesn't taste great, but it's fucking probably able to be used to cook. You don't know why the hell anyone would, but you can.
I'm going to take a bite of the babel fruit just to test it beforehand
Oh
and
god.
see how it combines with the taste of the fluid.
Okay. So yeah. So as you take a small bite, think of the horse smells from SpongeBob. You take a small nibble of this, and for some reason, every word you start to say becomes babbled.
Ryan,
Oh
did you
god.
do all the drive?
Oh god, I can't understand a single word you're saying anymore. This is horrible.
I'm like really communicate with this sort of completion.
Oh no. I see why they didn't need this. Horrible things have occurred. Chaos. Incarnate. Okay. I'm assuming. I don't know. I'm going to. Orion's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. She's gonna like just start like fucking trying to mix the shit together in a bowl and hoping to God it works.
Would you like to roll?
I would love to.
7.
It surprisingly
2.
becomes some kind of odd mix that resembles cake mix. A very
Oh.
shitty one, but one nonetheless.
Tara gestures with a pan for you to put in the pie type mixture, or like our little slurry
we
basically form into a pan.
Yeah, we pour this slurry into like a used fucking container that's been like cleaned and shit, and try cooking it over the fire, to completion.
While the crust is working on just crisping up just a little bit, I'm gonna finish the babel fruit and lay that over the top of it.
Sure. You
That
did
way we
notice
can
that
get it
while
nice
the
and
babel
tucked in.
fruit did fuck you up, it was very, very sweet and very, very tasty. It's like a mango, but its mango is not to blow up, and act like it don't know nobody.
Brian, it tastes like mangoes. Mangoes, eating mangoes. I
I'm
love
scared.
mangoes.
I'm
Mangoes.
scared.
Mangoes.
I'm
Mangoes.
scared.
Mangoes. Oh no, I took out Alex. Oh no.
Oh
Alex,
no!
I'm sorry. I took it. I extracted these nuts out of his ass.
Your ill-gotten gains will be returned.
They were very ill-gotten. They were gotten by bangos.
Let's see how you want to roll for how well that bakes.
Yeah, you betcha, Chief.
Hell yeah!
Don't fail me now.
Horrifically.
Oh,
It boils over. It escapes, and it's just a seared mess. It smells like fruit. Well, we tried. I don't.
Eat it.
I don't. Did you say eat it, Alex?
Yes.
Orion's
Tara's
gonna
already
like.
eating it.
Orion takes out the pan, sets it down, and just like punches the top of it to crack it open. It takes a bite. Like this.
Roll for Constitution.
Oh god.
God damn.
Iron stomach.
Oh, this actually isn't that bad.
Oh shit, let me have a bite of that. Oh shit.
Do you
Yeah,
have,
no.
do you have
Honestly, when
a-
I had a what's up?
Yes, you're fine. Okay. Go ahead. I had to check something.
You know, after I've had a crystal burger earlier, which was very good, by the way. This ain't that bad.
I think we've somehow made the worst cake I've ever eaten, and yet it's not that terrible. If we win, it is definitely a pity prize.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%.
We could also steal someone else's pie.
I'm listening.
I'm not saying we have the kobold rob someone at gunpoint, but I'm not saying that's out of the question.
Jesus fucking Christ!
There are many. Life has many doors, Ed boy. Let me consult with my agent real quick. And she like runs over to the vent, just like whistles into it. It's like, hey, listen, all right, look, I want you to go to that guy. Like someone who has they have like a really nice pumpkin pie. They're very delightfully putting on some final touches. There's a guy over here like a raspberry pie. It looks like they've gotten really lucky with their ingredients. They're very out of sight though. It's like that guy. I'll make sure that you get to eat some if you rob it from him and let us win.
You know, it takes like absolutely nothing for him to inform the other guy, right?
Let's see. Is Orion good at convincing? She is not.
Well, you know what? We live with our actions.
So she's gonna take the kobold just laughs and shoots her instead in like the arm.
Sir,
Oh boy, the
you have
consequence of
lost.
your actions.
You have lost your gun privileges. Get over here.
He shot me in the fucking arm. Ow.
I'll get you patched up. It's gonna be okay, baby.
Oh,
Son of a
You just
bitch! I can't
punched
take
me?
this gun back from the kobold.
Oh, okay, I think we're done here. I think I'm good. I don't need to win the infinite bucket.
Bree, say that out loud. Fire Fist will remember this.
Oh. I don't need it. I
Jeez.
like
I
and
haven't
and
had a
I'm-
use for that sound in so long.
the the founder like takes a piece like okay. God.
Yeah, apparently you
Okay.
can't make a cake like you make pottery.
He like looks at you like, yeah, no shit.
Okay. Well, I learned today.
Oh my god, you call this food? Jesus Christ. Make rations that are more moist. Jeez.
I mean, the liquids that you gave me were motor oil.
It wasn't motor oil.
It was motor oil.
I don't know where. Shut up.
Eh.
Poison me. You don't get the bucket.
Oh. Well, go wash it down with the better pie.
Ah, my
You
days
you
in
you
the
you call
oven.
me over here to be your combatant.
counsel.
Not your baker.
So, council, do you think our fucking brick pie deserves the win?
Just waiting for unknown to do the buzzer sound.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, okay.
See, what you could do is you take your pie and you wait for the person who's in first to win, and then you beat them with that pie and take the prize.
I'm not above thievery. Yeah, the kobolds just tearing through the vents right now. They're doing something. I don't know. They got a gun and they're going a little crazy. They've gone mad with power instantly. At the slightest hint of having power, you begin to realize why they were put in a vent. Okay. I think
Well, we gave it our best shot, Orion.
We gave
Thanks
it
for
our
trying
best.
something different with me.
yeah.
You
I'll
know what
try.
they say? A good friend of mine once told me the first step to getting good at something is to suck at something a little.
That's true. If you say it's fine loud enough and hard enough, it will eventually be fine.
Exactly.
That's how
So I guess since we did the baking competition, we can't do shootsies, huh?
Yeah, I believe it's over.
That's fair. Well, you want to try to find some other pie to eat? Make the best of the time?
I'm not above thievery.
There you go. We'll have a good time over here.
Yeah. And basically that is what we end up getting up to. Our respective day will pass with stealing pies, thieving from other people, and making the best out of having a surplus of things to eat to drown in our sorrows.
I do have a question for the founder. If there's
Yes.
a second. I would like to ask him if he has heard wind of where the Sisters of Malice have flown to. I know we've kind of discussed it before a little bit, but I just kind of ask, has anyone come out of the woodworks that he might have known?
Oh, yes. Apparently some of them have taken refuge in the swamps. Um, something about the kobolds constantly protecting it being a very prime space to relax.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
You may
Okay.
also find some among greed. We don't currently have any of them in our service. So, I would suggest looking at the swamps.
Now, the closest I'd found was your Trounce Bounders, so that was already a pretty good lead, which thank you for that.
Yeah.
Which actually, Cinna, she just remembers saying that, holy shit, if that thing still has juice, I might be able to get hold of Cinna through that still. If
It's
she's within
possible.
range. Worth a try, but Swamp's next. Swamp's next for me.
Sure.
Ryan, thanks for trying something different. I haven't gotten a chance to really talk to you too much.
Yeah, it's great that you waited till I was lucid.
Hey, I'm a little bit more lucid too now these days. So here's to knowing the best versions of ourselves. Hopefully. Better? Maybe getting better? I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. Anyways, I'm gonna go eat some garbage. Whee!
I didn't even get a chance to have a Snyder mark. Damn.
She's basically in orbit around you.
It's like, yeah, you mask so much, I would think you were trying for the lead role.
The fuck does that mean?
It means you suck at lying.
Bitch. What do you mean?
You're Solstice's martyr.
Ouch.
I mean, it's true. You even tried to ask me what I wanted to do when you were the one invited. Unfortunately for you, I have my own martyr already, thank you.
Wait, you have or you are your own martyr? I
I
messed that
have.
up. Oh, okay, you have your own martyr. That being, she does know Nova's name, right?
Yes,
That being Nova, yeah?
that is correct.
Hmm.
Look, I know you try to do the whole nice thing, and you try to be the whole nice person, just being real for a second. But, if it is that we come across someone who isn't us in this tournament, we shouldn't, but if it does happen, you need to be prepared to actually do what you want for once and not worry about the other person, because what they want is your death, and they will see to it.
Yeah, I will admit to being pretty nervous about that part.
Look at me,
I
I'm
mean-
selfish, and I ended up just fine. The only, the only thing that fucked me up was being selfless. Isn't that great?
I guess there's something to be said for balance between the two, huh?
Probably. Yes.
Since the Orsu are established to be able to use the orb, can Wreath shoot them a message?
Sure.
Can Wreath tell them to look out for the envoy, was it?
Yes, the envoy.
The envoy. So
Yeah.
tell them new faction, call the envoy, collect information if possible,
Sure.
and ask them to pass on the message to Terra and Orion.
Oh, it seems I have a message for you two when you're done skulking.
Oh. Tara kind of looks to Ryan as she, like, under breath, like, hand over, look, towards her way. I'll try my best, okay?
Sure.
And she looks pretty sullen and feeling very called out.
You should.
But also thankful.
Yes, it appears that there was a recent development I was not aware of. There is a sixth member of the tournament now.
Oh shit.
Yep, I fucking called it.
Have you heard anything about them before?
They call themselves the Envoy. I don't know anything other than that, unfortunately. Your friend Wreath told me to tell you.
Okay. Well,
I-
we'll keep our eyes and ears out for it.
That's probably for the best. And for what it's worth, you know, sometimes baking doesn't go your way, but maybe just don't repeat the steps you did today.
I thought I did a pretty damn good. Oh, that's right. I tried to pottery bake it. My bad. That's true. You know what? Solid advice, founder. Thank you.
Yes.
And well, with that, I guess that they'll try to like mill around. If they get anything on the envoy, awesome. If not, then it's gonna be a nice time of having pie, chilling out, and watching people shoot a little bit
Yep.
more at
It's
the shooting
basically
range.
just us enjoying the dulcet tones of pie and gunfire.
Hey, you wanna try firing off a round real quick and see how we do at the shooting range?
Sure. Let's
Just for
do it.
funsy. All right.
Abysmal.
Oh,
Excellent. Let's see what I
abysmal.
do. Bruh.
You get what?
For the first time ever in Wizards history, Orion actually fucking aims.
Well, look the fuck at
When
that.
it doesn't matter.
Well, look the fuck at that, Orion. You know what this means, right? You know what this means. You've heard the phrase before, yeah?
When it doesn't matter.
No. No, 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 no. Different way. I implore you. And she tonks you on top of the head with the pie tin that is crusted over. You can get one. You can get two. You've gotten your first good shot. You can get another one.
I have used up all of my good luck for the rest of the year.
Nope, you haven't. It's gonna be okay. I think that's a fun one to close out. I think that's what to close out on, actually. What's up? What's up, Nox?
Never mind.
Oh, okay. Sorry, hun.
Okay, we're gonna switch to our last lad of the day, who is going to be Yoink. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry. Sorry. For Firefist, you are going to be surrounded by a shitload of kobolds. Actually, how did you get good old Ozzy from hell? If you would like to.
Oh, I just communed with him. Imagine the nice thing about having a focus made by, God of Metal was being able to commune with him that focus made me.
Ah. So yeah, you I'm assuming you get like to the as you're walking, you just kind of have like a rift open beside you, and him just like step out. It's like, no.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah, sure, fuck it, that's cool as hell. Here we go. You're right.
He's literally Iron Man.
Yes, literally Iron Man, literally made out of metal, the metal god himself. You're right back in the mines that we were previously in, which has been reconverted into the little festival ground. Let me.
This place is looking spiffy.
Yes. It's a large feast. There are, of course, it's a large feast. There are. There is the massive game of Rock Knife, for which there is little explanation. Though the kobolds are incredibly enthused about. You see, basically people running from like an ore room over to a furnace area, and then just hauling ass to the other side of the mine without much explanation.
Those little buggers always are the busy lot. They definitely keep their hands full.
I don't think I could do Ozzy's voice. I'm gonna be honest with you, but it's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I do see that these are very lively folk. I can see why you take to them.
Absolutely. They're truly the people of the nation. Besides, can't think of any better faction than these to be the successors of the inner city and try to right some of the wrongs that are across this land.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people come from the endless city go to hell, and each one of them belonged.
It's true, there's some truly shitty people and some true legends, though. But, I'm sure good old Lucifer himself will be very pleased at the end of all this if we send a few more residents this way.
Probably. Hell's gotten incredibly hot as of recent. One of my cars that I had for a few years has melted ever since its reintegration.
It seems like he might be compensating for something.
It might be. I think his ego's a little bit bruised.
More than likely, he's been trapped in Orion's ass now for a hot minute, so it probably would bruise my ego as well.
For what it's worth, I didn't like being around them to begin with. I'm not sure I could handle being in their brain.
And that's fair. It's they grow on you, whether that be in terms of endearment or like a tumor. Well, yeah, I guess it depends on who you are.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would be particularly helpful. You as you're having this little conversation, you have a little you have Aragon pop up to you and say, "Ah, welcome in. It's nice to see you over here in our lands. Well, you've been in our lands, but it's nice to see you here at the festivities. After all, they are held in your honor."
Indeed, it's good to be back amongst the people, the real people of the industry.
Yes, I imagine so. It's though I wouldn't say that the other factions are less. They're just corrupted and horrible. They kill leaders and they're probably fine. Anyway, yes, we have plenty of resources, most of which are going to be metals and textiles. But should you need, to have a new fit or a weapon or if you would just like to uh, produce our various things that you would be responsible for, should you win, we can arrange for that.
Absolutely. It seemed like kobolds who came to our craft earlier had some intentions of probably a new fit, maybe weapons. I don't want to let them down, so I'll at least see what they got in mind.
Certainly. They've also invented a new game called Rock Knife.
They did seem particularly enthusiastic about this new game, though the title leaves a lot of unanswered questions.
It does. I truthfully have stayed clear of the game myself. I am concerned for its contents, though they seem to have a prize. They've taken from our vault a particularly powerful crystal, and every attempt that I've had to take it back from them has been met with severe resistance. So, needless to say, it is the prize for today.
They did seem keen on that as well, but why not? I guess if they ordered, then might as well let them have a little fun.
Yes, I'm not quite certain what the crystal does. We put it in the vault for a reason, but when they get their minds set to something, there's nothing you can do.
I guess let's find out one way or another.
Sure. Here come one of the participants. Uh, Aragon kind of like just sticks their hand out and just like basically clotheslines the fucking kobold running past, and just and helps him like, all right, little guy, is what is this? What are you doing? Why are you running? Why do you have a knife? What's the purpose? Oh, yes. It's very simple. You get a rock and you make it into a knife. And then you take it and you compare it to the other knives. And whoever has the best knife is the winner.
Whoever has the what?
Okay.
the best knife.
Oh.
But there is no sparklies allowed. No magic.
So I'm sorry, I had to step away for like 2 seconds. Just confirm, you just make a rock into a knife and
It's
that's the
basically they're crushing or processing it and turning it into a game of making weapons. They just want an excuse to run around with fire and knives.
Who
Yeah,
doesn't?
understandable.
Make no mistake, these are very simple beings. They just want an excuse to run with knives in their hands.
How can you have Ungo without the bungo, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
He like the kobold shows up very proudly, like this dagger that's very misshapen. And they're like, my knife. It's very sharp. It's just a little special, though. It's okay.
Five is just gonna pat him on the head. That is a very good knife. I think you did a great job.
Thank you. I bet I could stab many things with it.
I reckon it might. Don't even have to give him a gun. Just someone's here, take your knife, go do a crime.
I can do a crime? Wait, no, that is not what I said. That is not what he said. Do not do that. Do not do that. And you can see like
Don't do that right now. If we need a version later, we'll let you know. But just keep that in your back pocket for now. Not the knife, just that idea, you know. We'll let you know if we need that.
I can do a crime later. Okay, well, it's fine. We'll deal with that later. It's okay. I promise. Anyway, yes, you're free to participate if you want, I guess. And who's your plus one?
Oh, this would be my patron. This is Ozzy, the god of metal.
A god. Excellent. Welcome to our abode. I apologize for the rowdiness of our people.
No, I don't think you have any problem with that. Ozzy always did love to have the wildest crowds.
Yes, we don't like to have a dull moment.
Dull moment. I see what you did there. Knife fun.
Yeah. Uh, Ozzy's, Ozzy, like, to be fair, I don't think that I'm fair to have in that competition, given that I am the god.
Yeah, it's true. It's not like you couldn't just take over if you wanted to. But at the same time, I know you have enough of your hands full dealing with the heathens and bullshit down the hell. So the political situation is far outright past its original intention, but you know, we pushed forward, right?
Well, let's. I have an idea. I'll process the ore, and you can handle the knife making.
Yeah, because I couldn't do that.
That should make it somewhat fair, I suppose. You'll have a higher quality than the rest of the materials, but how's your smithing?
Uh, I grew up on how you say, the ghetto, so learning how to make a quality shiv is kind of a prerequisite.
Certainly. Right on.
Especially if we got, I know we can't use magic, but there's no saying we can't use natural flame if they've got a little bit of a forge around here, or even a furnace. That does tend to make metal a little bit more pliable.
Yes. There seems to be like some furnaces that were hastily built over here that the kobolds have been running back and forth from. Yes.
I have to object. Trust you are obligated to do the Aussie accent.
What is he? Like, I don't remember his voice ever because I never tried.
I'll fight you if you don't.
All right, hold on. Let me.
To do Aussie, throw in British, higher pitch, and don't do any hard consonants.
He's kind of he was. Well, I was gonna say
Bloody
he-
hell, man. What the fuck are you talking about? he got better before he died, but you know.
Shara!
Shara,
Shara!
Cobalt. Oh, sorry.
Sharon!
Thank God, Nias gotta
Oh,
use
oh
that to get in the
God.
right swing of things.
I'll start getting there already.
Fantastic.
You just hear like a a loud like crack and the like mine shake. Some things fall from the sides. Like, oops, a little bit too much power.
Just imagine the kobolds like looking in awe, seeing my entire mind
Oh
shake.
yeah,
I'm like, holy shit.
they're just like they just start slowly making their way to just stare at him, and they're just like, whoa, wow.
You know, it's kind of special seeing what they see with fresh eyes. That was kind of my reaction the first time I saw Ozzy.
Like one of the little kobolds is just like, wow, I want it. Metal's cool. Are you a rock star? Oh my god. Whoa. That's just basically the little things you hear just echoed repeatedly. They're just they're enamored. They saw someone crack a wall and were like, yeah, this is a cool guy.
Just shuffles over, cracks the wall. No big deal.
Yeah. So he grabs like a fucking boulder of this shit and just is basically crunching it between his hands. And he's like, oh right, shit, no magic, right? And he just like basically just punches in the dust and just grabs like a bag of that and just kind of takes it over to the forge. Um, like, this should work.
Perfect. Look at that. You got a fine assault, man.
Yeah, and you're welcome to make an argument to the council on whether you would be able to do this very well, or you're able to roll for it. It's kind of however you want to go for it.
I mean, for him, making knives is part of his childhood. So, I mean, that's kind of the way it was. And you lived in a shitty side of the street and you had to steal shit to survive. You had to have a weapon, and guns weren't exactly available.
Yeah. What kind of describe to us the type of knife you would make?
Be a simplified knife, considering it's really raw materials, but going for a double-edged knife with an extremely fine tip point.
Yeah. You're basically making the prettiest prison shiv.
Exactly. You got bare minimum resources, so you know, hellbound lizards make do.
I'm going to say that I believe you will beat the kobolds at it, though it's not exactly master smithery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know. I didn't think about like how good the kobolds would be at doing this. I think they're very good at I think together in a team they're very good at doing things. I don't know if like one on one they're very good at creating these things. I don't know how
True.
useful they are as a singular unit.
Though, I mean, even if they were decent at it, he has the absolute advantage. He doesn't even have to use normal tools. He can reach right in the furnace, grab a searing hot blade, and just turn it.
True. What do we think, Council? What do we think?
I say he's got it.
Yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, it checks out.
All right. Yeah, I'm willing to say he's got it.
All right,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
I think that they'll be like, this was possible.
Oh, look, just for dramatic. Ta-da.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
I like the idea that that is the one hat he will wear. It's just having a knife on his head.
I didn't even realize I said that on my head.
Well, feel free to take yourself and your creation over to the judges, who let's see. Ugh.
Stabby motion.
Yes, stabby. You have just a congregation of kobolds over there, like, oh my god,
I love her being judged by these nuts.
yes, you present it to fucking Alex. The kobolds have opened a rift into the void in the middle of the mine, and Cat Eye stare back.
So is the prize weirdness or dash?
Oh my god. Regardless, one way. Regardless, you as they see you fucking like quench this blade with your all hands and then run over and present it. Uh, a lot of the attempts thus far have been bent. They've been kind of fucked up a bit. Normally the kobolds are able to
You
work.
hear screams in the background as a kobold tries to do the same thing as you.
Yeah.
No.
It hurts. It hurts. Bad time. And as Aragon has to go over, it's like, oh, you stupid. Okay. Don't. He like stops the contest for a second to announce like, don't try to. New rule. No magic and no or imitating the god of metal. Thank you, or his patrons. You are not fireproof. You are fire resistant. There is a difference. But yeah, you pass. You get the crazy crystal TM. It's basically a giant purple
What's up?
gem. Yeah.
You get 50 rupees.
Da, 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 da.
Let's see.
Nice. Good mouth trumpet.
Nice.
There you go. Boop. Let me pull up the description for this here. It is a special jewel that is known only as "quote unquote" the Sparkly Boy. This enigmatic jewel seems to have the strange ability to warp magic that goes through it, and there is a special warning on the side: not for Kiwi, not for breaking. Careful.
Not for Kiwi, not for freaking girl.
Yeah. They don't even.
Must be fun to experiment later.
Yeah, they don't know what it does. They just know that it's sparkly and it's pretty and it's huge and no one else is allowed to have it, so it must be valuable. So they made it a prize.
That's fair. You know what? I think I'll find a nice pedestal to put it on in my quarters when we get back. That way it's in safekeeping, and I'll have to investigate this later. Especially the Terra look at it, unless she loves shoddy rock.
I've not seen one of those things since, God, a long time ago.
That rare. Huh?
Fucking
Extremely.
love rocks.
What?
Interesting.
What did you say, Tara?
I fucking love rocks.
You're just gonna like start eating it, and Fire's like, no.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, the last time I've seen something like that, it was part of a strange it was part of a strange thing called by the people up here as the Auspex. It was a weapon of mass destruction, the thing before what they're doing now.
Interesting. That's definitely got quite a tale to it.
Yes, I'm not sure where they found one of the gems for that. and I'm also a bit perturbed that the gem may be misplaced, but it should be fine. We would have
Fair
heard
enough. We'll
waves.
definitely keep that under lock and key for sure, just to make absolutely certain. But yeah, better than laying around in some bottomless mine, I suppose.
Yes, it's quite fortunate they had that as a prize.
Indeed, last thing we need is some little cobalt kid coming through and, causing a nuclear apocalypse.
I see why they did not want Kiwi to have this.
Indeed, apparently Kiwi wanted that as a snack, so that's that'd be an interesting one.
I think that would have made him a god.
That would be fucking terrifying.
That would be
But it's good to
terrifying.
know that's the case. That's if everyone is into godhood after looking at that crystal, Father.
I'm not certain, but I don't want to find out.
Just gonna pocket that information for later.
Yep. Um. Oh, and should you? I'm just gonna kind of trail off and go to a bit of a quieter place in the mines and kind of like usher you over. Um. And hey, I know you're planning on giving the wind to Luna, and I'm not supposed to speak about things of royalty. It's against code.
Can you repeat that phrase I did not catch all?
Yeah.
Kind of cut out from me.
So I'm not supposed to speak. That's part of the reason why I don't do the accent because it's very hard to get to capture with my
Oh,
specific
even
setup.
before that, it was.
Yeah.
I caught the. I'm not supposed to be about royalty, but whatever you said before.
Yeah, basically it's against code. He's not supposed to speak about it. He's not supposed to talk about it. Anything concerning royalty, he has rules to not talk about.
This is Aragon.
No, this is
So
yeah.
Thank you.
Be careful which elixir you choose if you choose to be royalty.
yeah, believe me, I've not loved the thought of becoming royalty, considering it's what I've hated all my life. But I also know sometimes you have to become something you don't want to in order to make the change you want to see nowhere else. So it's been a heavy thought in my mind.
He
Believe
like
me,
Go ahead, sorry.
regardless, I will not abandon my principles.
One more time. I did not mean to interrupt you, my bad.
Oh, you're good. He's just saying that no matter what, he'll won't abandon his principles.
Yeah. You Ozzy uses a bit of his power to like darken the area around you and give you a bit more privacy. And he grabs you by the shoulders and looks you straight in the eye and he says, "No. Be careful which elixir you choose. In the trial, pick wisely."
Wait, Alexa, what are you talking about?
When you are presented the two elixirs, I cannot divulge more. Pick very carefully. And do not trust the one who runs the trial.
There's so many questions I've got, and probably none you can answer, unfortunately.
I apologize. That's as much as I can give.
I'm assuming that some kind of trial awaits after a tenement to become royalty or something like that, since the industry is obviously a little different.
That would be correct. Whoever wins the tournament is going to be put through a trial at the end, and when that happens, I hope they make the right choice. If there is one.
I was going to say, is there a right choice? Do you not know?
I've not seen a single queen that seems stable or in control of their own senses.
That's good to know. I'll do what I can to be prepared going in.
Good. I'll be watching over, and I've got something special cooking up. I'm preparing for something big. Something I'm sure you'll enjoy.
Indeed. We can definitely talk more about that later. I've got a few things on my mind as well lately, so all for the development of the future.
Exactly. Like hit you on the back, like, we'll get to that in due time.
Indeed.
And then the last
Connecting a lot of dots as a player, but fucking Wreath doesn't have all the information I have at this point. Bastard.
We're gonna switch back over to but apparently won't do that because it told me no. 1 second.
I'm sorry. I did not process anything that the last part of what was just said. What dots you just what? What?
I said I am connecting a lot
Oh, I
of dots
know.
as a player.
Did I miss something else that was said after the bit about the queens being stable or unstable?
Orange. Yeah, there was another sentence there. What was it, Trist?
Basically, they're no queens are stable or in control of their own senses. From his perspective, anyway. And he's brewing something big, and he wants Firefist to be a part of it, and thinks that Firefist will enjoy it. But it's not time for that yet. It'll happen eventually.
Aussie's taking over hell.
Really cool.
And it might happen. And finally, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry about that. Why have been having such issues?
Oh, you're good, dude. It's been destroyed and stuff. I didn't have like any idea what the fuck I was gonna do for this session. Just being completely real with you, for the majority of the week, and then Friday hit, and I was like,
Guess.
yeah. Let's see. Okay, you two have kind of just been. What have you been doing since everyone's been gone?
How much time's passed, I guess?
I'd say by this point, you guys have just been like chilling for maybe like an hour or two.
Alice is still forcing Saul to play her saxophone.
Yeah, it's just been constant,
His
No,
fingers are
nonstop.
starting to
No.
bleed and he's crying.
Weak.
No, he'd probably be doing something. I don't know, maybe reading a book. Just chilling in one of the pillow nests.
Sure.
Yeah, she would have gone back to keep working on stuff.
Nice. So Solstice, if you wanted to, you could talk to Saber now.
Hey, Saber. You got a sec?
Yes, Captain.
Look, I know you're doing it to mess with me. I'm sorry I have been so hard-headed. You don't need to keep calling me Captain.
Ah, I see. That's very kind.
I don't know much about who was here before me. I've seen the the safe in my room, and the papers thrown about. But there's also not a lot of information about you.
Well,
and
Go ahead.
and I've kind of gotten a notion that there's a little bit more than what I understand.
That is correct.
Floor is yours.
Scythe has helped me uncover a lot about myself that I was not privy to over time. He is not connected to what he used to be, and he is not who he used to be, but he has been running the process alongside me, and he has let me glean information as toward my purpose and function, and as toward what I am. I am one of the three, at least, fragments that were made out of the copy of Sentinel. And I am the ship's navigator and its engineer. My job is simple. It is to entertain and enrich the crew, protect the crew, including against themselves, and to maintain, pilot, and operate the ship. Though Scythe has enabled me to go past those if I want to.
And do you want to?
I haven't yet.
You got nuked to know that sense. What was that?
I haven't yet.
That's not what I asked. Do you want to, Saber?
I don't know. The only thing I
Okay.
want to do is find the other fragments and see if completing the whole would complete me. But beyond that, I don't have any goals.
Huh. Oh, buddy, trust me, I understand that one. Oh, I really understand that one. Oh, geez. Well, the problem is, I know where one of the other fragments is, but I don't know if we can get to it anymore. It was dropped on a queen's head.
Which queen?
The Glass Palace. It was on the ship. It was on Erasmus.
Oh. Yes, so it would have.
Yeah. Alice dropped Erasmus on her head a while ago. I don't know if we can get that back.
She dropped her what on his head?
She dropped her ass on her head.
So I've got a question for you guys, for Solstice and Alice.
Yeah.
So what did you do exactly after everyone left?
Soul's been reading a book. I mean, they
Mhm.
kind of were hanging out for a bit, and Alice said, "You know, want to go do her stuff," and Soul went to go do her stuff.
Right. So after everyone left the ship, you've not been back to the front of the ship, correct?
I haven't.
Yeah. Why?
Is the door locked?
I mean, yeah, it would be. There's also door sensors we established before. So whenever one's open, it goes ding ding front door or something, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we know if someone comes in, and yes, it is locked.
Fantastic. Give me 1 second. For no reason at all. For no particular. Oh, Jesus fuck! I have so many. This document's very long.
By the way, because Soul knows the system and Alice, the door to the bridge would be kind of like opens so you'd be able to see down the hallway.
Yep. Let me just grab this.
Oh, I hate that.
As you're talking, Saber stops mid sentence.
What's up, buddy?
something's wrong. There are footprints outside the ship that were not there before. Someone's tried to open the
Where?
front door.
What?
Someone has attempted to open the ship.
Are
I
they still
can't see
there?
them. I can't tell if they're still there. I can only see their footprints.
Look human?
I apologize. I
No,
can't see them.
no, the footprints. Do the footprints look human, Saber?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna try and look out the front, the windows here, and see if I can see around the side.
You see a soft handprint on the outside of the window. And you see
The hell?
the impact of a sharp implement that was slammed into the window as an attempt to get in.
Saber, someone's trying to force entry to the monitor, Starlight. Uh, shit. I know we're doing maintenance on the lower levels. Are we still secure?
I'm just gonna use my voice for this because going back and forth is a bit of a pain in the ass.
You're fine.
Yeah. Yes, we should be secure and we should be fine. All doors are still locked.
Okay. All right. Hey, cool. Someone's trying to get into my house, our house.
In the middle of the
The base, our house. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna... Yo, Alice,
Yes.
we got a problem. Someone's
What's
trying
up?
to force entry to the ship.
Oh,
I got a handprint and a impact in the front window, and Saber says someone's trying to get in the door trying to get in the main door. So I just come with me.
that's reassuring.
Yeah. I assume there's no peephole or porthole on the door, is there?
No. You could see through the cameras on the terminal, but again, Saber can't see them.
On the camera.
Vampire.
You
Is
can
there?
notice.
Can we hear any?
Go ahead.
Yep. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
You can see your breath.
The fuck.
Fuck, it is vampire.
Alice, you're seeing this too, right?
Out of character, you're referring to the breath, yeah?
The breath. Yes.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's gonna be cold too.
Yes.
Oh no, it's a hot too.
Get the
That's
salt and the crucifix.
Well, whatever it is, it's still there, and it's probably not gonna go away. She backs up from the door and
I'm. Go ahead.
hold on. She runs to her room and you hear a loud clang. She comes back with her shield. And she drops it on the floor for a second and slots the light lasso potion that Tara gave her.
Yeah, good call. I'm gonna use.
Wonder
What's
Woman
that?
time.
I'm gonna use the intercom. Can I help you?
You do not hear response from anyone. You hear the soft crunching of sand kind of pacing around the ship.
Actually, you know what? You don't even need to open the door.
Oh, just be
Um,
careful, please.
Alice is going to open up a rift below her feet, and just fall through it, and reposition herself above where the doors are to then fall in front of them.
Sure. Would you please give me a roll, Alice? What do
7.
you have as far as saves? Let's have a look.
Is your vampire immune to goat ass falling on it from 20 feet?
Very
No one's
So-
immune to
established
that.
prior.
So,
True.
do you think that with your saves you can make an argument to being able to dodge something coming at you very quickly?
With the coordination, yeah, absolutely. I have
Yeah.
a 12 on that.
Yep. You see, passing by your eyes is a very sharp, very bright red spike. As you dodge out of the way of whatever the hell it was that just went by you.
Whoa! Don't even get a greeting. Do I see anything besides the spike?
You did see like the flash of like a red cloak.
I'm gonna chase after it.
They are gone. They well, I guess not gone, but yeah, you see you chase after the stippy steppies that you see in the sand. You gonna try and like tackle them or hit them with the bonk?
I'm going to use the like lasso potion and fucking yoink them.
Oh shit, okay. Damn, alright.
This is exactly why I went back and grabbed that.
You're all like, hell no, I ain't doing none of this shit. Hold on. There we go.
While downstairs, the girl's just like, hold my beer and just runs out. And he's just like, what?
Basically, what's going on right now, I
Yeah.
think.
But when Soul heard them fucking take off, he was like, shit, and fucking would have been like a second behind, but would have chased out after him.
Yeah, sure. So we're just gonna
Hearing the shit behind him, of course, just saying that out loud in case he's trying to do something.
Yeah. So we're just gonna say that this is like a separate like area. Yeah, I'm gonna say fucking yeah. You secure this invisible person. You can hear them like pop. As you lasso around them and they hit the dirt or sand, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk over them and tell them to lift off the invisibility spell or anima or whatever it is they're using.
I was hoping my competition wouldn't know that I was here. Good job.
Well, you did a
Oh.
really bad job of that when you damaged our window.
Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with a lemon. No. So Soul's is giving this guy like some insane, like just shooting daggers. Do you do any research before you go after somebody at all?
I don't normally need to worry about that.
Do you know who we are?
You see, as their invisibility drops, you do see that in one hand they hold a rosary, and in the other hand they hold a very large book. You've seen this person before, though they didn't have these armaments. They were in the Glass Palace.
Well,
Would I recognize the face?
It's someone Orion talks about very often.
Is this fucking Nova?
You see
Did Nova
runes
just try to just
dig
did she just come to
themselves
kill me?
into the ground.
sorry, what'd you say? Unknown was freaking the
You're
fuck
good.
out. I couldn't hear.
You hear or you see hands kind of like dig into the ground around her, placing runes underneath as she like cackles in her restraints.
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second. What
Fuck.
reason?
Basically, she has floating invisible hands. Don't worry about it.
No, is she what her restraints?
She's cackling in her restraints. It's like,
Can I try to? I'd like to try and kick the rosary out of her hand.
sure. Let's see. Give me a roll. Fuck. Can she get a 1? She cannot get a 1. Yeah, you kick that rosary way the fuck out of her hand. It's off in the sand and embedded. Fuck. Uh, but that wasn't the focus. And
Damn.
Right? Can I shoot the book? Can I use my hell pistol to shoot the Bible?
Can I shoot the fucking book? Bruh.
What?
I'm gonna say. that- I mean, fucking roll for it, I guess. Fuck. Okay. She beats it. Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna use the token. I don't want to die
Fuck.
here. We're not getting assassinated today. I've been selling those tokens for a while.
She, you do shoot the book, and it does damage the book quite grievously as well. But she
So my pistol beam
does.
from hell have any boosted effects on it? Like maybe on a lighting and fires a holy book? I can only assume at this point.
If you were trying to cast a spell through it, probably.
No, I mean
It's
I
not
don't know.
holy.
Oh, it's not.
I
Okay,
never
never
said it
mind.
was holy. It has a rosary, but
Oh.
that's just a thing
I-
she has. It is definitely not holy.
Oh.
Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, she casts a spell, chanting, as she's tied there in kind of a manic state.
Bonker.
Yeah, that's next.
It's her turn. Yippee!
No, she's chanting attack of opportunity.
Yeah.
Motherfucker. She uses her spell source, New Sphere, by I can't pronounce that name. Gilom David. Yes. Which is the song we were just listening to. And she uses it to retreat.
But she's just
Well done.
gone?
Yeah. She gets dragged by the hands into the ground. And she's
Now,
gone.
correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that Orion's obsession?
I don't know. And then she'll just walk away to go grab the rosary so she can bring it back to the ship.
Yeah.
Hey, Saber,
Yes, Captain.
please contact the Orisu base, and also if you can locate right now, contact that orb that Rith contacted us from earlier. Let them know that Nova is to be treated as hostile.
When you hear like the what do you think Reed's reaction would be to that information?
Like fuck. Is Nova the envoy?
Uncertain. She did attack the Martyr of Starlight, myself and Alice. She was attempting entry, was foiled. We have her rosary, and her book was damaged.
Oh yeah. That's a problem.
We don't know yet.
Have you spoken to Orion? Because this is going to be an issue.
Not yet. Waiting for a response.
Okay.
You just hear like the second you have a connection to the Warsu, and like Orion overhears, you just hear what?
You got immediately nerfed.
You just hear her yell "what" at the top of her lungs. Like you hear a
Orion,
fucking echo.
yeah, she attacked the MOS, Alice, and myself. We have her rosary, and I shot her book. She's gone for now, but she's clearly wielding something.
Oh, that is very not good. Okay, that's fine. It's
She's
fine.
she
It's
was
all
man,
good.
she was maniacal, doing shit with runes and hands come out of the ground and pulled her away.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I've never seen her use her magic. I've never been allowed to, but Jesus Christ. Okay, so here's a
She was here for me,
yeah, that tracks. Okay,
so
uh, yeah, that's about. Uh, just keep the doors locked. Make sure that anything you have that is good against demons, probably good to keep on hand.
do you think she went and got herself possessed?
She's a demonologist. It's what she does. That book is a grimoire. That's her focus. That's what I
I shot
saved her
it.
from. That's why I made a
Well, it's
deal with the devil.
it's damaged now. Put a good sized hole through it with my pistol.
I hope so. I hope that's enough.
Should have I should have used one of Andromeda's swords to try and yoink it away. I need to think about that. Oh shit.
You am I hearing this too? Am I confident?
Sure, why not?
Fuck it.
Okay, well this is a massive problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Did she have anybody else with her? Anything?
And what powers did she use? Because I gotta make sure Luna's safe.
it was a it was some she was dragged into a hole by some hands, and we don't know if she was alone, but we did lock the door behind us, and Saber is on standby. So
As Alice is walking back over the rosary, she overhears that, and she'll just add, "Oh yeah, she flung a red crystal at my face."
oh yeah,
Out
red crystal.
of character, you guys don't want to tell me she can turn invisible?
Oh yeah, she was a, we're getting there.
It's madly important.
Sorry,
I like how
I
you
look
leave
we're
out like, oh yeah, you can't detect this person. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah,
kind of me.
she was invisible to the eye and Saber. She threw a red crystal at Alice's face, and she made the air cold around her, especially on the other side of the door. We could see our breath inside the ship while she was outside.
Okay, got it.
All right. I'll instruct the Templars to seal all entrances and prepare for invisible people for an attack from an invisible force, and I will set up some booby traps.
Yeah, good idea. And probably put a double time on that, Orion. You as well, because she's gone, and she's been gone for about 3 minutes now. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Ryan's gonna cut comms or kind of like walk off. She's gonna kind of like march over to Tara. Were you nearby during that conversation? Do you think you would have?
I probably caught snippets of it.
Okay. It's like Orion's gonna go to you, Tara, in the Orisu base. Be like, okay, so I've not touched on my friend. They're here. They're probably going to be in the tournament, and if you do have to face them, if they are in the tournament, if that is what's happening, if they are the envoy, you have a book. Remember that book? Remember that old book that you had a long time ago? Remember that book? That book that you have in your inventory? That book? The book specifically for dealing with this problem?
I'm not muted. I just have the mic away from me.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
The demonology book. Yeah, I can go scratch around for that.
Oh, I don't need it. I just need to make sure that you have it.
Yeah, if I don't have it, it's in Firefist.
Cool. Have you read it?
Firefist room. I've skimmed a couple pages. I mostly had it to keep track of who Firefist might know downstairs.
Right.
The deep south.
So there's something
The
that
deep south.
you
Sorry.
need. So, so there's and not Florida, although it's similar. So there's
HE double
something.
hockey sticks.
So there's something you need to know. I've never seen her cast, so I can't tell the difference. And for what it's worth, I also haven't seen one of these in actuality. But there are two kinds of demonologists. There is one that is the actual demonologist. They control demons by giving them deals. There is a different kind, however, and if she is one of these, which I'm hoping to God that she isn't, then we have a bit of a problem. There are people who get possessed without a deal, who are controlled without a deal, and people who are turned into conduits through that, turned into wizards through that. If she is a daemon host, run. Don't fight. Give up and leave.
Run. Got it.
Obligatory trust. Did you remember to read the chapter of the book on this?
I have read some of it, yes.
Okay. Because this is covered in the book in case you forgot.
Daemon hosts are covered in the book? What the fuck?
Being possessed by a demon is, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That could also be like could
Or
also spin
allowing
that
your
as that's
allowing
how
yourself
Orion's
to be-
one Orion knows of it.
allowing yourself to be possessed by a demon is in there.
Yes.
Where is it? Where is it?
This is shut up, Raphael. This is where a particularly powerful demon has, instead of being allowed to take control, it's where a demon has effectively forcefully taken control of someone.
Hmm.
They basically they give somebody a Jimmy Neutron brain blast and force them into wizardhood.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. We gonna end on this cliffhanger? It is late.
Yeah.
Can we at least go back inside the ship real quick? Just to be inside instead of bringing back outside.
Like
I want to be inside where it's warm.
take me into the take me back to the big ass ship so I don't get my shit.
So, so demon can't rock my shit. Oh,
Back inside where it's nice and secure and there's no demons trying to take my fur.
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Whatever variant that you want to do. Fuck it.
See, but simply you forget what's in the basement. You forget what's in the fridge. Driving in my car right after a beer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'll see
No,
myself
you
out.
cannot use the hyperdrive car to run over Nova.
Why not? She attacked my home, and then me, and then my friend.
If you find her, fuck it, but you're not gonna.
I actually have a locator built in, meant to find
Yeah,
the nearest
yeah, right. You've
shaped
had
object.
all the time. That
Yeah, it's built into the
definitely.
car.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tuned specifically to fucking.
It's tuned to find you. Actually,
Damn it, this goddamn son.
you're welcome.
I love Bird Brain.
He's gone. He left. Well, that was fun, guys.
Yeah. Did y'all have fun?
Any mushrooms?
I use nuts token. I haven't touched any of my nuts tokens in a while. I haven't touched my nuts in a while.
Yeah.
Skill issue.
Yep.
Well, no, I'll keep the joke to myself. Actually,
Let's see. What was the thing I was gonna say?
notes are uploaded. Sorry if they're a little lacking tonight. I had an issue where could not get my brain to get the audio, the processing correctly. So there's a couple things where I filled in the blanks, but
You
it's
good.
Thank you for doing notes in the first place. It's invaluable, honestly.
Yeah.
With as labyrinthine
cool.
as this story can be, it is super handy to have an index and resource to go back to.
Yeah.
Yes, it's coming clutch more than a few times.
Yes.
It really has.
So there let's see. Yeah, basically next episode we're gonna actually be at the tournament. Yippee!
Oh, she was trying to fucking get in a cheap shot right before the tournament. What a bitch.
Yeah,
was-
I planned on you being
Yeah, people
alone
who
during
do
that.
that are dicks.
Well, yeah. No, there was some time between you doing it and the tournament starting. She was doing it like the day before. That's fucked up, man.
Oh yeah,
I earned my spot.
she needs to make sure that no one was gonna get replaced. You know, you're not gonna get some random other person off the street to be a independent. She wanted to make sure that you were gone.
Well, you know what's funny is she showed up right when we were talking about her queen too. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'm worried about it.
I'm sure nothing bad will happen by having someone who summons demons into the fucking tournament.
We'll deal with it next time.
On Wizards in the way.
Tonight, we fight a demon. Luna gets carried, and I promote to Plat 3.
The fact we're just like, oh god, demons scary. And like, just forget we literally fought demons in hell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did fight him. Oh yeah, we did fight. That was when
Vasha robbed one.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, that's right.
you guys have fun fighting fucking demons. To me, that's just a fucking Tuesday.
We got Vasha. What was no Vasha got a
The
crystal
pick.
necklace. Oh yeah, the
it was
pig.
it.
That's right. I've never put the pick on her. Oh, wait, she gave it to Firefist, didn't she?
Yeah, she was Firefist. That was a while
It's the
ago.
pick-
Aw,
it's
that's
the pick
right.
of destiny.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the pick of destiny.
So we need to
Do
have
not
the...
challenge
Damn, I haven't thought of that.
Nova to a rock off.
Well, I mean, if no one wants to
Wait.
lose,
Firefist.
Well, I mean, wait, hang on.
Challenge
I mean-
Nova to a rock off.
Yeah, challenge her to a rock off, then later get his rocks off. Ah.
Ha!
God.
You can rock
I've made
these
two in a row.
nuts.
Can I get a token for one of them, please? Like, these have been two really good jokes. And I honestly feel that my last two decent jokes was I'm being a total asshole, by the way. do not care.
he sits upon his tokens.
You mean he sits upon these nuts?
Yep.
He gets it. Whatever.
What? Did you actually give me one for that?
Yes.
I hate you.
It made me laugh.
I made. So did mine. I said 3 with me. They made you laugh. You just gave me a token for him.
That one made me laugh without my consent.
Oh, what? Fuck you.
Oh my god.
Fuck you.
Unknown. If you make the argument that you're going to get a decent token, you're probably gonna get told no. I'm just giving you the heads up, man.
I don't care. I was being a dick. I do not care.
Rage!
I am just busting your chops. Just like
And
how
it's like,
you know.
I don't even care about this token. I mean,
Alright. We're gonna be raiding into Barry. Barry and Dash are playing Peak.
Yay!
They're peeking it. They're peeking it.
I put an appropriate GIF in Wizards Council.
Fantastic.
Wait, I didn't know we all had.
Thank you guys. All I just heard was dick.
Oh, Jesus, it scared the shit out of me.
I didn't know we all had Asties of Brilliant.
I will not tolerate the forces of evil.
Oh dang it!
Oh, dang it.
Okay, bye, everybody. See you tomorrow for Continental. Oh, fuck you. That's what we're doing for Continental. Shit.
We do Minecraft.
We're doing
It turns out...
Salvia.
That's right.
Solstice, go.
Tower updated, but we can do Minecraft. We'll do Tower next week.
Yeah. Turns
Ooh.
out that Crowd Control updated again. Turns out that their client removed the ability for Legacy when it wasn't supposed to, and then it's back. So, fuck it, I guess. It works.
Yay!
Anything else?
Yay.
10 seconds. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Anyway, yeah, I'll be the Continental, and then yeah, fun times. Then Tuesday, than Wednesday. The days of the week, they have things on them that almost always happen, except when they don't. We are going now. Goodbye. Have a good one. Have a nice day. Eat brownies and pizza. Goodbye.